you need is picture's not looking so great. Let me see what I can do about this. Why does it look so faded? I don't know. All right, somebody already liked this. This is cool. We're going to talk about this topic. I'm also going to talk about it a little bit later on today. Um, Mainly because it keeps on popping up. It seems to be a hot topic, and people tend to talk about it a lot. So we're going to talk about it a little bit. I'm What You Need. You're watching my channel. If you like what you're seeing, subscribe to the channel, and let's chop it up. So, first and foremost, I just want to clear the air on some of the things which are discrepancies, which people talk about. So let's start off with Floyd Mayweather. Okay, people say Floyd Mayweather cherry picked his fights. Now, Floyd did pick fights because he ultimately was the guy who was the A side after he beat Oscar De La Hoya. So he was picking his opponents. And what I heard people say is he didn't pick the best opponents sometimes. All right, so let's get into that real quick, real quick. Floyd didn't cherry pick opponents. He didn't cherry pick. Of course, he's the guy doing the picking. Ultimately, he's the guy that'll accept the fight because he's the A side. But he didn't cherry pick opponents. Okay. Let me give you a list of opponents that Floyd faced after he beat Oscar De La Hoya. So after he beat Oscar De La Hoya, he faced Ricky Hatton. Then he retired. Then he got back into boxing and he faced Juan Manuel Marquez. Then he faced Shane Mosley. Then he faced Victor Ortiz. Then he faced Miguel Cotto. Look at the names of people I'm talking about here. Then he went to prison, came back out of prison, faced Robert Guerrero. Then he faced Canelo Alvarez. Then he faced Marcos Maidana twice. Then he faced Manny Pacquiao, and he finished off his career with Andre Berto. Those are the guys that Floyd faced after he had beaten Oscar De La Hoya. And all of them, except for Robert Guerrero and Andre Berto, were world champions when Floyd faced them. All of them. All of them were coming off some of their greatest wins. Victor Ortiz's greatest win of his career was beating Andre Berto. First time he had went up to welterweight and beat Andre Berto. It was very sensational. Okay? You look at Miguel Cotto. Miguel Cotto was coming off of some great wins. It wasn't the greatest wins of his career, but he was able to avenge his loss to Antonio Margarita, who probably would never have beaten Miguel Cotto had he not used plaster of Paris in his wraps, or the hardening thing in his wraps. Okay? But he was able to avenge that loss. That was the fight before he faced Floyd Mayweather. You look at Canelo Alvarez, who had peaked. He had just beaten the undefeated Austin Trout, who had just beaten Miguel Cotto. So, I mean, and he was a unified world champion. You look at Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao, yes, he had been knocked out by Marquez in 2012, the year that Floyd went to jail. But bounced back from that really well, avenged his loss to Timothy Bradley, the first guy he lost to in a long time. And then after that, he turned around and he beat Chris Algieri, knocking him down like 6 times. And this was in Macau, China, I think he fought him. Okay? So Pacquiao was coming off of some really great wins when he faced Floyd Mayweather. And people was like, Pacquiao's back. You know what I mean? And even after being beaten by Floyd, Canelo's right now pound for pound the #1 fighter in the world, never lost another fight. You look at Manny Pacquiao, he was legendary. He came back, had a series of wins, beat again Timothy Bradley, Jesse Vargas, became champion a number of times, WBO champion a number of times. He had a little hiccup with Jeff Horn, but then he came back and just beat everybody else. You know what I mean? Beat Keith Thurman. The only person he didn't beat was Yordenis Ugas, who followed basically the Mayweather blueprint of how to fight Pacquiao. But the point is that, and people tried to follow the Mayweather blueprint, but you got to have certain attributes, and you have to have a certain boxing knowledge. Because Timothy Bradley thought he could, he could definitely beat Pacquiao. Since Floyd beat him, he couldn't. So, there's a lot goes into trying to beat Pacquiao. You just beat Pacquiao like that. So anyway, the point is, he faced Pacquiao, okay? And Pacquiao did well after Floyd had beaten him. Cotto did better after Floyd had beat him. First, Cotto went in a slump. He got lost to Austin Trout. Fought something like Mayweather, was a southpaw. And then he came out of the slump and he really started to blossom. And he became middleweight champion of the world. You look at, it just tells you the caliber of fighter that Miguel Cotto was. You look at Marcus Maidana. Well, he retired after, but Marcus Maidana was on a knockout streak. After he lost to Devin Alexander, he had busted up Devin Alexander's face, but he lost to Devin Alexander. He went on a tear. You know what I'm saying? And man, he was just destroying people left, right, and center. And Marcus Maidana, he's heavy hands and everything. And he destroyed Adrian Broner, right? It was a great fight. It wasn't. Adrian Broner lost a lot of. Adrian Broner was never the same after he fought Marcus Maidana. So when you look at these guys, okay. So here's the thing. They say he cherry-picked certain fights. Okay. He didn't fight the best possible guy out there. Okay. This is comparing to what? Let me give you an example of what I mean. So, obviously, the Floyd Mayweather before Oscar De La Hoya was Pretty Boy Floyd. All right? Nobody questions Pretty Boy Floyd's resume. Most people say, well, Pretty Boy Floyd was what he was, right? Once he was with Top Rank. Now, once he left Top Rank, became his own boss, that means he could pick and choose who he wanted to face, right? So we can't say that Floyd didn't pick and choose who he wanted to face. He clearly had he had that at his disposal because he was his own boss. Roy Jones Jr. could pick and choose who he could fight because he was managing himself. People don't know Bernard Hopkins also could pick and choose whoever he wanted to fight. And at a certain point, Oscar De La Hoya also could pick and choose. Sugar Ray Leonard could pick and choose who he wanted to fight as well. So these are guys who they reached the pinnacle of the sport, and now they could pick and choose who they wanted to fight. All right, Sugar Ray Leonard at a certain point he wasn't. I think he was promoted by Bob Arum for a little bit, and then after that he was on his own, and he used to do his own thing. All right. So anyway, my point is that these legends, at a certain point when you get into the boxing game, if you don't have a promoter over you, Pacquiao had Bob Arum over him, right? So he couldn't pick and choose who he wanted to fight. But I'm going to talk to you guys about a couple things, right? So anyway, Pacquiao's now his own boss, obviously. But the point is, when Floyd became his own boss, yes, he picked his opponents, okay? He picked to face Carlos Baldomir, for example, versus Antonio Margarito. Now, you cannot tell me, and if you do, you're stupid. You can't tell me that Carlos Baldomir wasn't a better opponent for Floyd to face than Antonio Margarito. He was ranked higher than Antonio Margarito. One, he beat better opponents than Antonio Margarito beat. So how is it that Carlos Baldomir was not a tougher opponent and also not a better opponent for Floyd to face because he was a lineal champion at the time? He had just beaten the undisputed champion. Why is Carlos Baldomir a worse opponent than Antonio Margarito? At best, at worst, he's on the level of Antonio Margarito because he accomplished more than Antonio Margarito. Antonio Margarito was a long-reigning welterweight champion who wasn't getting no shine because he wasn't facing nobody, right? So anyways, the point is that Floyd faced Carlos Baldomir instead of facing Antonio Margarito, who Bob Arum wanted Floyd to face. But Floyd had just cleared himself from Bob Arum. Why would he want to do business with Bob Arum again? Bob Arum did not deliver to him Oscar De La Hoya. He wanted Oscar De La Hoya or Shane Mosley. He wanted one of those top-tier guys. And Bob Arum was not delivering for him. Okay? So he faced Carlos Baldomir. He could have faced Ricky Hatton as well. Ricky Hatton was out there. It was either Carlos Baldomir, Ricky Hatton, Shane Mosley. Shane Mosley didn't want to face him. And it was also Corey Spinks at 154. So what Floyd was supposed to do was Floyd had just beaten, I believe it was Zab Judah earlier that year in 2016. Or 2006, sorry. And the next fight was supposed to be Oscar De La Hoya, but Oscar De La Hoya said, I need a little bit of time. After my win, I need a little bit of time. So we'll do it in May 2017, Cinco de Mayo. So that left an open spot, which Larry Merchant asked Shane Mosley about, and Shane Mosley was like, I ain't fighting this year no more. I'm taking a vacation. I had two big, hard fights against Fernando Vargas. I'm going to take a break. So Shane Mosley said, I'm not interested in facing Floyd. And he talked about the tooth thing and whatever. But Shane Mosley wasn't interested in facing Floyd for most of his career. Now let me just put it this way, all right? Because let's be fair to Shane Mosley. Shane Mosley was this big name in boxing at the time. Floyd wasn't as big as name. Floyd was trying to make a name for himself, right? So when Floyd had beaten Arturo Gatti and he was at 140 at the time, and he heard that Shane Mosley was coming down, Floyd Mayweather was like, Floyd Mayweather is willing to come up to 147 and face Shane Mosley, Oscar De La Hoya, right? But the point behind it is, Floyd was hungry. Floyd was trying to establish himself. Floyd was trying to be the big name in boxing, right? He was trying to get the big fights. So obviously Floyd's going to be hunting down Shane Mosley. It's very much like what's happening today with Errol Spence Jr., for example, and Terrence Crawford, or with Boots Ennis and all these bigger dogs. Virgil Ortiz. Boots Ennis is gunning for the big dogs because he's hungry to get into that position where he's the top dog. He wants to be the top dog, right? And you have Terrence Crawford. He really wants to face Errol Spence. Why? Because Errol Spence is like the quintessential top dog of the welterweight division. So Terrence doesn't want to have to face all these other guys in between. He's like, no, screw them. They're not the top dog. I want the top dog, right? And he was a world champion, so he should really get the first preference to it. So I get where Terrence Crawford's coming from. However, I do get where Errol Spence is coming from. Errol Spence was like, let me clean out my side of the street. Let me clean them out, and then you could come at me, okay? And Errol was right. I mean, I can't fault Errol for that. And people say Errol ducking Terrence Crawford and that fight should happen and all this kind of nonsense. No, consolidate all the belts so that when Terrence Crawford fights Errol Spence, if Terrence Crawford doesn't, for example, if Terrence Crawford doesn't face one of the champions himself and clean them out, then he waits for Errol to get all the belts so that they would fight for undisputed. It makes it a bigger fight, one. Two, it makes it a fight where if Terrence beats Errol, great, because now Terrence is the man. But we know who the man of the division will be when all those belts are collected. So I just think that what Errol is saying to Terrence Crawford always made sense to me. Now, people are saying, well, Terrence is getting old. He's 34. He's going to be 34 if he's not 34 already. That may be so. But if you take care of your body, Terrence, you ain't got to worry about that. And if you're a smart fighter, so you know how to make adjustments to your style, and you have the fundamentals of boxing to be able to preserve yourself for that big fight with Errol Spence, which will be a hell of a fight. A whole world will stop to watch that fight, for sure. So, I mean, I don't see anything here where, I mean, we as fans, we talk and we chirp and chirp and chirp, but truth be told, that's a fight that's going to be a good fight because when they face each other, they're going to have a lot of experience and everything, and they'll be ready for each other. So I think it's a good fight. But back to my point. They say Errol's ducking Terrence. Errol's not ducking Terrence. Errol will face Terrence Crawford. Listen, look at Errol. Errol's gone through all kinds of crazy stuff, and he's still staying the course. He's still trying to unify those belts. He's trying to clean up his side of the street. And that's what a lot of people are not realizing. Errol is doing everything he possibly can to get that status that he told Terrence Crawford he was going to do so many years ago when they met each other. Right? He said, I'm going to clean up my side of the street, take care of these dudes, and then I'm going to come and get you. I'm coming for you. And he really means it. Now, between those two, I don't know who would win. I'll be honest, Terrence is very impressive. He shows me he has great boxing IQ. He showed me what he did to Sean Porter. It's just incredible. It don't mean anything. Styles make fights. Sean Porter could have continued, but he didn't. His father pulled him out and said, that's it. We're calling it a wrap. But the point behind it is that either way, Terrence Crawford was a very impressive fighter. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Terrence Crawford could do against Errol, what Errol will do to Terrence. I know what Errol will do to Terrence. I know what Errol is going to do. His fight plan is to go to the body. So he gonna beat that body down on Terrence. So if Terrence is a good body puncher and everything, but that's what Errol is going to be doing. And Sean Porter got to Terrence's body. Sean Porter did get his shots in. So we're going to see how Terrence responds to a big, strong welterweight like Errol. But I think Terrence is up to the challenge. We'll see what will happen if anybody will get knocked out or whatever. But that's a hell of a fight. That's a hell of a fight. And that fight, I don't care what the fight fans say. That's a fight the fight fans will want to see. That's a mega fight. That's a really, really big fight. And Terrence, by separating himself from Bob Arum, he gonna get more, the bigger share of the money. But that's a fight that's gonna happen. And when it does, it's gonna be a hell of a fight. It's really going to make boxing go to the next level because these are two highly skilled, highly, very smart, cerebral fighters. And man, I'm looking forward to that fight. But first, we need to get Terrence versus Dennis Ugas. That's a tough fight in and of itself. Dennis Ugas is a guy that people underestimate. Don't underestimate that brother. He used science. You know, a lot of science again, and his trainers are one of the greatest trainers that you'll ever find. Cuban school of boxing. So, you know, very scientific. So it's gonna be a great fight. Ugas versus Crawford versus Spence. Ugas versus Crawford is also a very, very good fight. In fact, I say this over and over again. I really wish Terrence Crawford would face Ray Robinson. Ray Robinson is a guy that's a spoiler. He's a tricky dude. He's a southpaw. He have unsteady legs, something, but he can box. That boy can box his ass off from Philadelphia. And you know, Terrence Crawford need to know that Ray Robinson out there. You know, Ray Robinson didn't get no shine because again he was his own promoter and everything. So if Crawford, listen to me, man. If you can't get nobody out there, you better go face Ray Robinson. Give that boy some shine. Give that boy a paycheck. Get that boy a paycheck because that's a dude that can fight. That brother can fight, and he can box. So please give him a hand. Help out the Philly brother. You know he been under the radar for the longest while. Nobody want to fight him. Nobody want to fight him. High risk, low reward. You know what I'm saying? Somebody got to fight that boy. Somebody got to pay that boy. You know what I'm saying? That man been in boxing long enough. His dues have been paid. Somebody need to get him off the map. Because he's a very, very good fighter. Anyways, so and Southpaw versus Southpaw, I'll be like, you know, you versus Errol Spence. I'm just saying. But back to what I was saying. So Mayweather, let's talk about him. Now, first of all, I cannot mention Floyd Mayweather without mentioning Larry Holmes. Okay, Larry Holmes. So let me explain to you guys Larry Holmes' philosophy in his book and why Larry Holmes thinks that Floyd is the greatest fighter ever, right? Larry Holmes would applaud Floyd for everything he does. Larry Holmes was a guy like this. Larry Holmes said boxing is a business. The goal in boxing is to get into the sport, hit guys as much as you can, and get hit as least as you can. Get out in the sport with all your faculties. Make a ton of money. And that's it. That's Larry Holmes' philosophy. He said it's a dangerous sport. You want to get out of that sport with all your faculties. Make as much money as you can. Okay? That's the goal for the fighter because the fighter will be exploited. Will be exploited. Floyd Mayweather's been exploited. You know, he never got certain monies that he was supposed to get. They owed him money and all kinds of things. He's been exploited as a fighter. But all fighters have been exploited. That is the boxing world. That's the boxing game. And for the youngins out there, that's the way the boxing game is. You get exploited in it as a fighter. The fighter is the most exploited merchandise. And they used to exploit the living daylights out of them fighters, man. Okay? Back in the day. Today, boxing has moved so far forward. So I want to salute Sugar Ray Leonard. I want to salute Marvin Hagler. I want to salute Bernard Hopkins. I want to salute Roy Jones Jr. I'm specifically saluting these particular people, Oscar De La Hoya, because these guys, they were business savvy enough. Sugar Ray Robinson, business savvy in that they said, you got to give me my run. First of all, Bernard Hopkins had no promoter. Roy Jones Jr. had no promoter, so he managed his own self. Okay? Sugar Ray Leonard, okay, so he was working with Top Rank, whatever, but then he tried to form his own promotional company, and he did his own entrepreneurial stuff, and Sugar Ray Leonard pushed the boundaries of it, and he also got bigger paychecks for fighters. He was like one of those $1 million guys. He was getting like $1 million paychecks and stuff. Okay? He didn't, all I'm going to say, Sugar, Much respect to you, brother, but you didn't give Aaron Pryor that shot, man. You should give Aaron Pryor the shot. You should give the boy a shot, man. That's all I'm saying. He's dead and gone now, but I'm just saying, Sugars, man, you should have if you respected Aaron so much, man, you would have given him a fight, man. You would have given the boy a fight. You know, both y'all could have eat, man. You know, we know what happened in sparring. We know you had the better of him at times, and he had the better of you at times. But that's sparring. You know, you pay him a little something for the sparring, but I mean, you could have given him a paycheck, man. You could have let that boy eat, man. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And Tommy, God bless your heart, man. You're a good fella. But I know Emmanuel said you ain't going nowhere near Mike McCallum. But what you needed to do was say, no. I'm going to give that brother a paycheck. You know? I'm going to give him a paycheck. Because it's all about the paychecks. Y'all know this. Y'all know how hard this business is. Y'all know it was about the paycheck. Y'all know these guys need to eat. You know what I'm saying? And what if he beats you? Hagler beat you, so you know what I'm saying? But he would not have maybe he wouldn't have beaten you, Herbs, because you would have been more sharp. You would have been more ready. Because you have to prepare for Mike McCallum. You know this. So he would have probably taken you to another level. You know, especially with protecting your body for body attacks, which I saw Thomas Hearns was like, you was so much better at 168 and 175. He was like, to me, the best Tommy Hearns ever. That's a Thomas Hearns that's dangerous. It's the Thomas Hearns I saw at 168 and 175. That's a bad boy. You know what I'm saying? That Thomas Hearns is a hard Thomas Hearns to beat. That's a Sugar Ray Robinson Thomas Hearns. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying these things are putting it out there for these greats because it's all about eating. You gotta eat. This is the vocation you take, and this is how you eat. This is how you feed your family. You know what I'm saying? So that's what the fight game was. And I always listen to people who were gracious, to people who gave them the opportunity to fight. Pitbull was very gracious to Tank for giving him the opportunity to face him. You know, I remember Mayweather, gracious to the great Gennaro Hernandez, God rest his soul, who gave him the opportunity to face him. You know, the graciousness of people to say, hey man, thank you for the opportunity that you gave me to face you. And even if you whoop their ass, you know what I'm saying? Sorry about the language. You know, I think of Terry Norris, how he was so thankful to Sugar Ray Leonard for giving him that opportunity to face him. Because you got to understand boxing. And a lot of people don't understand boxing. So let me go back to Larry Holmes. And so a lot of, I put up a picture there with Mayweather and Pacquiao. And they hugging each other. And y'all need to understand, especially fight fans, y'all need to understand the brotherhood. And that it was actually an honor that Floyd offered Pacquiao to face him. Because forever and ever and ever, Floyd and Pacquiao are like this in history. Because they faced each other. They're part of each other's legacies. And Pacquiao enhanced Floyd's legacy, and Floyd enhanced Pacquiao's legacy. Because you're talking about two of the greatest fighters to ever grace the stage in boxing. Two of the greatest fighters, and they faced each other. Okay? And no matter what you want to say, you might have bragging rights. Oh yeah, he dominated him or whatever, which I didn't really see a domination. I saw schooling, but I didn't see a domination. And I broke down this fight. I told you, Pacquiao did some very clever things. But suffice it to say, these two guys, they gave each other a payday. They gave each other a payday. That's where and forever you will see Floyd and Pacquiao like this. They're gonna work together forever. Because they brothers for life. Okay? Floyd even said the best he's ever faced was Manny Pacquiao. I think it was Canelo. I think Canelo was the best fighter he actually ever faced. But Canelo at the time, he wasn't green or anything. It was just that Canelo never been at that level. He never faced that level of fighter. And no one ever faced that level of fighter, actually, in Floyd's era. They say, when you get in the ring, it's like he do all kinds of interesting little things that you're just not ready for. You know what I'm saying? And so So nobody really ever faced that level of fighter. So Canelo, on the other hand, you know, he tried to box Floyd. He wasn't doing bad. He wasn't doing bad. He wasn't doing bad. He was hanging in there with him. He was doing different things. You know, he was doing different things. But Floyd seen all that. So it was nothing new to Floyd. Floyd was seeing all of that. And I knew those things, and he did it better than. He just did everything he did was better than Canelo. Canelo had the size, he had the power, he had good speed, but he do everything like Floyd. So you can't do everything like Floyd. You can't be an imitation Floyd. You know what I'm saying? You got to be you. And when he tried to bang Floyd, Floyd was catching him with counters. So Canelo's a counterpuncher and Floyd's a counterpuncher. So when you counter a counterpuncher, it make him think. So Canelo started to think. And he was trying to set little traps for Floyd and stuff, but Floyd wasn't falling for the bait, and then Floyd would carry him into another trap. So Floyd would trap set Canelo's trap set. And so he realized, man, this dude played chess on a whole different other level. This is why Canelo is so good as he is today. He learned so much from that fight with Floyd. A lot of stuff he learned with Floyd. You know, the timing, the composure. You know, he took his own. He has his own style now. Canelo has his own style. You know, the precise footwork. You know, Floyd has very, very specific, precise footwork. Even the beautiful timing, the timing offsets, the timing shifts. How Floyd would vary his jab, how he would change up his jab. Canelo has different kinds of jab. Again, you don't. It's not about, you know. It's not about how often you jab. It's about jabbing when the other guy is not expecting you to jab, and Canelo really mastered that. So there's just a lot that Canelo does, and even how Canelo closes the distance now has to do with timing. His timing is impeccable. So Canelo learned a lot from fighting Floyd. Okay, he took it in. You know, he went back to the old school boxers like Sugar Ray Robinson. He studied the old greats again. You could tell his trainer been studying the greats. This is why Canelo is so enthusiastic about boxing. He's talking about no boxing, no life, because Canelo's learning so much, which is why he evolves with every single fight. He's learned so much about the sport of boxing. He really fell in love with it after getting beaten by Floyd. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but I'm going to tell you, that man grew from that fight. He fought the greatest fighter of that era, clearly. All right. Now, let's talk about what I'm saying about Larry Holmes. So Larry Holmes' philosophy was you get into boxing, right? Make as much money as you can. You get out the game with all your faculties. Because it's such a brutal sport. Most of the greats, Bobby Shakur, you named it, Muhammad Ali, was called the greatest. These guys did not leave the ring with all their faculties. They just didn't. All right. Muhammad Ali, you know, he succumbed to what we call punch drunk syndrome. People thought it was Parkinson's, but it's not Parkinson's. He actually had a sort of encephaly, which is a degradation of the brain. It's called CTE, which is cerebral something encephaly. So a lot of fighters suffer from CTE, and they're breaking down. They're falling apart. It can slow down the process. Some of the people have also neuronal problems. You know, the great Wilfredo Benitez, God rest his soul. He's alive still, but he's got serious problems. We know about the G-Man. You know, Gerald McClellan. He got brain damage from getting too much trauma to his brain. He wasn't used to that. From Nigel Benn. Nigel Benn was a beast. I mean, that brother was about to get knocked out, and he fought back from that, shockingly, to beat Gerald McClellan. McClellan just collapsed. Thank God he's still alive today. Shout out to the G-Man. Shout out to the G-Man. Now, let me tell you something. All those guys I just talked about, Bobby Shakur, Muhammad Ali, the G-Man, I think of Mildred Taylor. I think of Terrible Terry Norris. The fans never reached out to them when it was sick. The fans ain't reaching out to you. The fans ain't paying to take care of you. You're on your own. All this legacy, legacy. Oh, yeah, great legacy and all that. That's great. Don't get me wrong. But legacy is not taking care of you on a daily basis. Unless you got some trust fund or when people watch your fights, you get some kind of royalty from it. Legacy not paying for that. That's what Floyd was talking about. Floyd wasn't talking of his own self. He borrowed the philosophy of Larry Holmes. That's why Larry Holmes is one of his greatest mentors, and he loves him a lot. He loves Larry Holmes a lot because Larry Holmes makes sense. He say if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. So when you hear Floyd repeating a lot of things, it was actually Larry Holmes Floyd was repeating, and Larry Holmes. I don't know if Floyd went and talked with Larry Holmes. I don't know what he did, or maybe read his book. I don't know what it was, but Floyd followed Larry Holmes' philosophy. Get into boxing, make as much money as you can, and get out. That's why Floyd he called himself Money Mayweather. Okay? He was all about the big fights. He was about fighting the biggest names in boxing he could possibly fight. Okay? He was about that. And he was about making as much money, getting his touch as least as possible, delivering punishment as much as possible, and getting out the game. Okay? Floyd always used to say, my health is more important to me than anything else, because he understood that he was a commodity to be exploited for the benefit of people who sit down and watch brutality. He understood this game called boxing. And all of you guys who are boxers, all of you guys who are going to engage in this very brutal, very dangerous sport, understand you make an opponent and then afterwards you hug them up and y'all is buddies for life. Y'all love each other and so on because you fought each other and you gave each other a paycheck and so on. But understand this. They don't care about you. The fans don't care about you like that. The promoters don't care about you like that. Nobody cares about you like that. You may have your opponent that cares more about you than your own promoter because you're a commodity. You're a commodity to be peddled and to be used. That's what this sport is about, unfortunately. Okay? Because when you think about it, ain't nobody care about you if anything happens to you. I think of my dude from Puerto Rico. Very promising fighter. He got brain damage from taking too much punishment. I forgot his name right now. Okay? I wanted to mention his name so that you guys could help him and donate to him. He's now smiling. You know, he's standing for the first time in many, many years. All right? He's a true champion. He's coming back. I forgot what his name is. All right? Boxers pay. Boxers. Listen to me. Boxers pay for other boxers' funerals. Boxers. Pritchard Cologne. Shout out to Video Audio Pictures. Shout out Pritchard Cologne. Thank God you remembered. Pritchard Cologne. Remember the name. Remember the name. Pritchard Cologne. Very promising fighter, man. Beautiful fighter. All right? They don't care about you. They move on to the next. All right? This man would have definitely become one of the great fighters. He had the heart. He had everything. So the name of the game in boxing, if you're going to engage in this sport, in the pros, understand, don't make no mistake. Get it clear in your head. This sport is about exploitation of the main player, the boxer. You get in, make as much money as you can, and you get out. Don't stay, don't overstay your visit in this sport. It is cruel. The kind of training that boxers as athletes go through is rigorous to start with because you have to be able to take the punishment and stand up to it whenever you get punished. This is not no sport to play around in. This ain't football. This ain't even American football. This is a totally different sport. All right, so Larry Holmes is breaking wisdom to the fighters. This is for the fighters. Larry Holmes break wisdom to the fighters. Bless you, brother, by the way. Okay? Larry Holmes be talking to the fighters. He not talking to everybody and anybody. He was specifically talking to the fighters. To the fans, I want to tell you guys this, so you will appreciate and understand the sport a little bit more. To the fans, I want to tell you this. I understand you want entertaining fights. I understand that you want fights that supersede your expectations because you want to be inspired. You want to be motivated. You want to come away from a fight wanting to punch something, but at the same time, you really want to punch life. And you get a raise. You get elevated by watching two fighters push beyond the boundaries of the natural boundaries. I understand it. Trust me. I get where fight fans get the excitement from. And that excitement boils into their lives themselves. And they get a little bit more inspiration to carry on and to fight the fight of life. I understand it. But I want you to understand something else. Boxing is a sport that on the surface, it looks like it's just two guys fighting each other. But really and truly, this art form is about disciplining the person, us. It really is about that. These two guys, these two gladiators that come to face each other, they weren't facing each other for months. They were training and preparing their minds and their bodies for battle. I want you to understand this because I, as a Christian, understand that you have to go through certain routines that you don't want to really go to, but you got to go through them to prepare your mind and body for spiritual battle. And it's very much the same sort of way and mechanism through which you conduct yourself. I want you guys to go deeper. I don't want you to just feel the excitement on the day. I want you guys to understand the process that gets to these two gladiators facing off with each other. You must understand warfare. You must understand that a battle is more than just two guys coming at a particular time to fight. In preparation for the battle is months in the making. It don't matter who you're facing. You heard me? It doesn't matter. When you're preparing for war, it doesn't matter who you're facing. In fact, most of the time, you don't even know who you're facing because it's very impersonal. Now with the technology we have, you're going to bomb certain sites, and your objective and your mission is what you're actually looking at. You don't know who you're bombing. You don't know well, you may know what you're bombing, but you don't know who's there to oppose that. You understand what I'm saying? It's very impersonal. And very much so, boxing's kind of like that to some degree. Even though you got this other guy that you may be looking at and focusing your attention on, right? And you focus on this guy. You're not really focused on that guy. You focus on what you have to do. It's all about you. It's all about what you have to do. You will hear a lot of boxers say, I'm not worried about that dude. I didn't even watch footage. I didn't even watch tape on that dude. Because they're focused on what they need to do for themselves. They're focused on what you have to focus on you. You have to focus. If you're not focused on you, if you focus on the other guy, then you're not going to be able to do what you need to do to beat him. You see what I'm saying? You have to focus on you and perfecting what you do. That is the beauty of boxing. Because to be able to deal in any battle, it's all about how you are ready for that battle. It ain't about your opponent and how ready they are for the battle because they focus on themselves. You got to focus on you. Yes, you need to have intel on your enemy. This is why we bring spies into the equation. In boxing, there's spies. The spies go to spy out different camps. Of course, that's warfare, right? But at the end of the day, that information that you know is cool, but that's not what you really want to know. What you really want to know is that I am in line with what I need to do. So I'm prepared for whatever comes my way in a fight. And that includes if I get dropped. That includes if I injure myself. Yeah? You must be able to deal with whatever situation comes your way mentally first, then physically second to execute. So this is the sport that we're we're talking about. And I want you fans to have that appreciation for the preparation to what's a fight. All right? And, 24/7 and those kind of things used to do, show you a little bit about it. But you got to understand, it ain't exciting all the way down to a fight. It is repetition. It's sometimes monotonous. But you got to give it your all with every single monotony. You have to pace yourself. There's temperance. You have to sacrifice a lot of things. Certain things you just have to put aside from you. Whether it's certain meals, whether it's maybe relationships with people, you have to put that to the side and say, okay, now, you might be a family man, you may have your kids and stuff, but maybe for some people, they can have their children with them. But some people, you can't have your kids with you. You can't have no distraction. You got to clear the air. Some people, they can have relationships, have sex and all of that. Some people, they can't have that. You have to know what it is that you must fast from. You must have a fast. Some things you must put away from you. You have to separate yourself. You understand? But you have to know yourself and know what it is you crave for. And that what you crave for, you need to put that away from you. You understand? Because different people is different things. Now, going back to Larry Holmes. Now, people say Larry Holmes ducked certain fighters. But whenever we look at Larry Holmes always thought in terms of finances. Larry Holmes say, I know my worth. And you ain't paying me enough. You lowballing me. So Larry Holmes was a guy who had a lot of sense. He was a very wise, smart man. When they brought the Greg Page fight, because he was going to face Marvis, I think it is. Marvis, mixing up the names. All kinds of weird names are coming up, but it'll come to me. Frazier, right? Marvis Frazier, right? Which is Joe Frazier's son. So he was going to go into a fight with Marvis Frazier. Marvis Frazier, the Frazier name, obviously, people light up like, oh, Joe Frazier's son? Okay, let's see that. No, Marvis Frazier was undefeated at the time. And they was offering Larry Holmes 3.5, I believe it's 3.5 or upwards of $3 million to face Marvis Frazier. All right. Of course, the name kind of spurred people to be like, oh, Marvis Frazier, Joe Frazier's son, undefeated. Okay. Right. Now, Marvis Frazier wasn't ranked. He wasn't ranked in the top 10. Okay, at the time. So the WBC, Larry Holmes was the WBC champion. Okay. He was the WBC champion. So WBC said, we can't mandate this. I'm sorry, we can't mandate this. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take the number one mandatory contender to your WBC title, which it was at the time Greg Page. Was a tremendous hitter. Really could punch. You know what I'm saying? Tremendous hitter. And they said, listen, we're gonna take Greg Page, make him your mandatory, and you're gonna have to face Greg Page. So Larry Holmes was like, okay. So they did that. They mandated Greg Page to face Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes was cool with it until they said, we're gonna offer you $2 million to face Greg Page. So Larry Holmes was like, what are you talking about, man? You gonna offer me, I think it was 2.5 million to face Greg Page, and I was gonna get $3 million to face Joe Frazier's son, and Greg Page is a tougher opponent than Joe Frazier. I'm getting paid less. He said, "Oh, come on, man. That's a $5 million fight. Give me $5 million, and I'm gonna face Greg Page, okay? Or what are we doing here?" So the WBC said, no, 2.5 million. That's all we got. They said, that ain't making no sense. If it make dollars, it makes sense, right? You guys heard this before. If it make dollars, it makes sense. Larry Holmes knew his value. Young boxers out there, know your value. I'm gonna say it again, because it's boxing business. If if you gonna have a Greg Page fight, Greg Page, great puncher, right? Knocking out everybody left, right, and center. Okay? Obviously, he's gonna be a greater threat than Marvis Frazier, because Marvis Frazier's not coming up. Yeah, he's undefeated and all that, but he's still coming up the ranks, right? Greg Page is ranked much higher than Marvis Frazier. He's a greater threat just based on his ranking. We're just talking numbers. Numbers don't lie. So you should be paid more for a greater threat. This is where risk versus reward comes into play. This is something Oscar De La Hoya, Shane Mosley, all of these guys, after Larry Holmes in the 80s, applied. It's called risk versus reward. So if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. That's where this phrase come from. Okay, so Larry Holmes was like, hell no, I'm not gonna fight him, man. And they was like, we're gonna strip you then of the WBC title if you don't face him. And it's like, take your belt, shit, take your belt. I don't care. You can keep your belt. You think your belt's something? You think it's so prestigious? I don't need your belt. I don't need your belt. So he faced Marvis Frazier. I think they let him face Marvis Frazier, and then they wanted him to face Greg Page after. And he was like, well, pay me, man. Pay me what I'm worth. And they would not pay him what he's worth. So it was like, take your belt. I don't care. Right? And the IBF offered them a belt, and that's how. He's like, man, I ain't paying your sanction and fees for that. Y'all ripping me off. They lowballed him. Okay? So everybody always say, oh, he ducked Greg Page. First of all, how you gonna duck Greg Page and you faced Ernie Schaefer's? Twice. Okay? No, he didn't duck Greg Page. The money wasn't right. So you hear boxers say, well, the money wasn't right. That's what they talking about. Pay me according to my worth. Pay me what I'm supposed to get. Because I can get another fight and I could get paid more than what you're talking about with me. And this is how boxing goes. That's why sometimes you see Canelo saying, like, you see Canelo, there's an offer for the Bivol, Gennady Golovkin back-to-back fights. That's a big offer. And then you got the Jamal Charlo, which, by the way, what is Jamal Charlo doing, man? Jamal Charlo, what are you doing, bro? I heard he's arrested again. Right? I believe it's not true, though. I think it's something for Charlo to just not have to go through with the fight. Like, Charlo don't want to go through the fight or something. It's kind of like the Rolly Romero thing. Either that or somebody's blowing smoke up Charlo's butt, giving him a hard time so he wouldn't get the fight. I don't know what it is. All right? But this news, man, just very perturbing. Because Jamal is a decent dude. He's a decent dude, all right. I don't know what's going on, man. Jamal's a decent dude. Trust me. That's crazy stuff that you're hearing about. He a decent dude, all right. He's a decent dude. I'm gonna vouch for that boy. But anyway, back to what we were saying. That was whack. But the point is, you always want to have somebody else you could face. When you show that you're in demand, that's how you're able to execute your worth. So you're like, you want to have options. So it's like this. It's like Canelo, right now they throwing all kinds of money on the table for Canelo because Canelo's worth. You see? And there's multiple opponents for Canelo. Canelo can pick this guy or that guy or that guy. Now, again, Canelo picking don't mean that Canelo's cherry picking. A lot of y'all, I don't know what's wrong with y'all. Y'all tripping, man. Canelo has not fought a subpar opponent since whatever that guy's name is, who was the mandatory for him. He hadn't fought a subpar opponent. You cannot say Callum Smith's a subpar opponent. Callum Smith was a hell of an opponent. Billy Joe Saunders is not a subpar opponent, and Caleb Plant is not a subpar opponent. I'll tell you all that right now. And y'all saying he was facing the weakest. I disagree with that again. I didn't think he was the weakest. Billy Joe disappointed me. But Caleb Plant, I think, is a better fighter than David Benavidez. All right? I would love to see Canelo versus David Benavidez. I would love to see him against Jamal Charlo as well. I don't know Charlo. I don't know what's going on with Charlo. That would have been a good fight. Um, I want to see him win with those dudes. Now, do those dudes want to be in there with him? I don't know. I don't know for Jamal Charlo, man. Jamal Charlo be even weird and whack these days. I don't know what's up with Jamal. But with respect to David Benavidez, definitely David Benavidez and Sandra, they want to get in the ring with Canelo. I'm pretty sure about them. I can't tell you about Jamal Charlo. I don't want even his brother doesn't understand what was going on with him. So I don't know what's going on with Charlo. I don't know if he's content with just being the way he is, and I don't know. That would be a good fight. Charlo versus Canelo is a good fight. I don't know what's going on there. So anyway, point is Canelo versus Bivol, right? Options. So what I'm saying is, you can press an issue with a dude when you show them the WBC or a sanctioning body or whoever. You show them that, listen, man, I don't need you like that. You pay me, or I go to somebody else who will pay me, right? And that's leverage. So when you see all these sanctioning bodies bending backwards with Canelo, and you see all these sanctioning bodies bending backwards with Floyd, or with Pacquiao when Pacquiao became his own boss, it's because they need them, not the other way around. And that's how you got to be as a boxer. You got to get yourself into a position like that where they need you. You got to get it in a position. You got to position yourself for that. Now let me explain a couple things. So Larry Holmes' philosophy was this: make as much money as you can, which means pay me what I'm worth. Don't try and lowball me. Larry was strong on that. So because of that, Larry Holmes came up with a book, and he taught young fighters a certain philosophy. It goes like this: when you're coming up the ranks and you're building your brand, don't take no fight where they're not paying you right. Because if you lose that fight, it could affect your brand so bad that you have to build all over again. So you have to cater for the risk and the reward for the risk, and they have to compensate you for that. That's what Larry Holmes said. He didn't advocate ducking people, but he said you got to pay for that. So what that means is this: two young fighters on the come up. No, not too young. A young fighter on the come up and an established fighter. Take, for instance, George Foreman. George Foreman at the time when Larry Holmes was coming up was an established fighter. Larry Holmes was coming up. And after George Foreman had lost to Muhammad Ali, George Foreman wanted to have another fight, right? He wanted to have another fight, a comeback fight. But they wanted to find somebody who had a style like Ali for him to face. And the young Larry Holmes at the time, he had a style like, Muhammad Ali. So they was like, you know what? This young kid, Larry Holmes, let's have him in with George Foreman as he's on the come up. And that'll be an eliminator, and that'll get George Foreman back in position to face Muhammad Ali if he beat him. So they put the proposition forward to Larry Holmes. First of all, Larry Holmes manager, Larry Holmes trainer, they were saying, hell no, we ain't putting that little kid in there with that killer. Now Larry Holmes, by the way, had sparred people like Sonny Liston. He sparred Joe Frazier. He sparred Muhammad Ali. Okay, so this was not, he had sparred guys like that. I don't think he sparred George Foreman. But the thing about it is, George Foreman was a former champion, right? And he had championship experience behind his belt. So it would have been a step-up fight for Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes, when he heard that, he was like, yeah, sure, let's go, baby. But then, when they told him the amount they was willing to pay him to face a former world champion who just lost, Larry Holmes was like, hell no. You're not going to lowball me on that. Hell no. This is my payday. This is my day to get paid. I'm facing a name. Y'all going to have to pay me for that. And they didn't want to pay him. See, they thought, because he's on the up and come, he would just take it And if you win, well, he'll move on and he could call the shots from there. But no, Larry Holmes was like, no, man, this is my time to get paid. You know what I'm saying? This is my time. I'm fighting a name dude. This is George Foreman. This is the dude who knocks people out. So if I'm going to get in the ring with this dude, you pay me accordingly. That's all he was saying. And I'm sure he wasn't outlandish because, again, Larry Holmes, he's a dude who knows his worth. So he probably said, give me $2 million. They probably just trying to throw like $100,000, $200,000 at him. And it was like, hell no. Hell no. You give me $1 million, you know, give me $1 million. I want $1 million to face George Foreman. I should at least get that. And they'd be like, it's not a championship fight and blah, blah, blah. All right. 750,000. Give me 750,000. I'll face George Foreman. I was like, nah, man, 100,000. He'd be like, hell no. Hell no. I'm not facing nobody for no small money. So listen, man. If let's say anything happens, risk, whatever happens in the fight, I end up losing that fight, it will affect my building that I'm building towards. So Larry Holmes said you have to look at the risk versus the reward, and they must pay you for that. You know what I mean? Maybe 750 million was too much. Maybe 500,000 would have been good. You know what I'm saying? 500,000 would have been good, but he needed to be paid for that because you're talking about a former world champion who just came off of being a loss. You know, I think he had one win under his belt. I think Foreman had one win under his belt, so he had his confidence back. That's a killer. If you're going to go in the ring with a killer, I'm not saying that you won't beat him, but I'm just saying you got to be compensated for that because the man got a name. Once you going in there with a name, you got to get paid for that. You dig what I'm saying? And the one thing, ask anybody about Floyd Mayweather. All them guys that shared the ring with him, they was compensated properly. He didn't try to lowball nobody. They was compensated properly. That's another thing Larry Holmes said. He said, if you's the A side, we all gotta eat. The B side must be taken care of. You must take care of the people that you about to face. And you must take care of them well. Because one thing about boxing, the guys who put their lives on the line are the boxers. So if you got a boxer that's gonna face you, you must take care of that boxer very well. That was the philosophy of Larry Holmes. Because he said, I don't want, and when I was the B side, I didn't want people to be, roughing me up and doing all these bad. No. You must treat your opponents well before you face them. Because they boxers like you. We're in a fraternity. The boxer's never the enemy. Even though he's the opponent in my ring, he's not my enemy outside the ring. The boxer is my friend. He is my brother. I'm about to share the ring with him. It's an honorable thing. We're about to fight to the death, but it's an honorable thing. I'm not mad at him. The puppeteer masters, the guys who pull the strings, they may be my enemy. So I want you guys to understand this about boxing because it's like, and I'm not saying all the puppeteers, they bad people. No. They got sanctioning bodies, got everybody. Everybody need to eat. You understand what I'm saying? Boxing's a thing where these guys, they need to eat. Everybody need to eat. You know what I'm saying? So the bigger the fight, the more people get to eat. Okay? We got to be reasonable. We got to be reasonable out here. Okay? Is boxing an exploitation sport? Hell yes it is. They will exploit whatever they can exploit. That's the way how it is. But at the end of the day, and even the fans are exploitation, right? We exploit the fighters. We say all kinds of things about them, but they the ones doing the fighting, right? So Larry Holmes understood the sport very, very, very well. This is why Floyd has such a good understanding of the sport because he followed the advice of Larry Holmes. You get paid for your worth. You get paid for the risk that you're about to take. So some people say, well, boxers today, they're getting paid way too much. No, there's no such thing. And you will even hear Teddy Atlas say that. You cannot pay these fighters for the sacrifice that they have put their bodies through and the parts of themselves that they lost inside of that ring. You will never be able to pay them for that. There is no ceiling cap. People who have dedicated themselves to this, which supposedly is called a sport, you cannot pay them for that. Right? It's pieces of their soul being lost in that ring. People don't see it like that because they don't understand how brutal the sport is. But all you got to do is watch the pictures of Manny Pacquiao post the Ugas fight and understand that is standard stuff in boxing. That's why you have to take a couple of days off to heal after a really grueling fight. People don't understand that. Internal organ injury. Okay? Sometimes fractured bones. Okay? This is what's after a fight. So a lot of y'all say they shouldn't be paid so much money. They should be compensated. Because you got to go to the hospital after. You better have good insurance. Because it's going to cost some money to fix that body back. Plus all the supplements and all the the trainers, you got to pay managers, everybody. That money go down fast, y'all. That money goes down fast. Gustavo Galindo says, well, it's simply one ducked elite fighters in his prime and the other didn't. Come on, bro, boxing 101. So Rat Eye says, boxers piss blood after fights, after taking body shots. Yes, sir. Rat Eye, shout out to Rat Eye in the building, Gustavo Galindo. So Gustavo Galindo was talking about Mayweather and Pacquiao, and he was saying that Mayweather ducked certain fighters. So I'm telling you guys Larry Holmes' philosophy, which is taking me an hour and something. It's almost like a lecture I'm giving you guys. To say this, Floyd ducked and dodged nobody. Floyd ducked and dodged nobody in boxing. Let me mention the names again of the people that Floyd fought after he left Top Rank. After he left Top Rank, he fought the #1 lineal champion in the world, Carlos Baldomir. Y'all gonna claim that Antonio Margarito was the guy he should have faced. Why? Because Bob Arum said so? No, he got options. Okay? He faced Carlos Baldomir for $8 million, the same amount that Bob Arum would have offered him had he faced Antonio Margarito. But here's the thing. Floyd was the lineal champion. After he faced Carlos Baldomir, what would he have been if he had beaten Antonio Margarito? Wait. Antonio Margarito beat nobody at that time. He was a long reigning welterweight champion, WBO, the least belt of all belts. So Floyd would have been a WBO champion, having beat Antonio Margarito, making him look stupid. And at the end of the day, after he beat Margarito, making him look stupid, y'all would have said Margarito ain't nobody. He ain't beat nobody. And that would have been it. And he ducked Carlos Baldomir. That's what y'all would have said. A higher ranked, better fighter who beats Ab Judah. Okay? Carlos Baldomir went on to fight Vernon Forrest at 154 and give Vernon Forrest a tough fight. He lost it for the WBC title, but he and then he went on to fight way down the road while Antonio Margarito was sitting on the shelf. He went to fight way down the road Canelo Alvarez 2 to 3 years after. He got stopped by Canelo. But the point is, this man fought for a very long time. All right? And his resume still looks better than Carlos Baldomir's resume. Still looks better than Antonio Margarito's resume to this day. Okay? Margarito took a beating from Manny Pacquiao. Why? Because Margarito's a simple fighter. He take punishment to give punishment. All right? Carlos Baldomir did not just take punishment. He was awkward as hell. He threw knee right hands off of the center line and all kinds of weird stuff. Carlos Baldomir do. Much better fighter than Antonio Margarito. I'll tell you this. If Baldomir faced Margarito, I got Baldomir winning the fight. Baldomir faced Joshua Clottey as well. Joshua Clottey was whooping Antonio Margarito's butt until he got his hand damaged. So, you telling me Pacquiao faced better opponents than Floyd? Hell no. Did Mayweather duck fighters? Hell no. He didn't duck or dodge nobody. Maybe you could say Winky Wright, but Winky Wright was in a totally different division, so it didn't really matter. You know what I mean? You got to really stretch it. But he did not duck Antonio Margarito. He had options. He could have faced Ricky Hatton. He could have faced Shane Mosley. Well, no, Shane Mosley was out of the question. He could have faced Ricky Hatton. He could have faced Corey Spinks. He wanted to face Corey Spinks. The guy he actually wanted to face was Corey Spinks, y'all. He wanted to fight Corey Spinks for the IBF Super Welterweight Championship of the World. He was going to go up to 154 and face Corey Spinks. They had it set down. They had a press conference and everything, and they had to scrap it because people was clamoring, we don't want to see no damn Corey Spinks fight. You know, face Carlos Baldomir. That was what people were saying at the time. That's the real linear champion. In the meantime, Bob Arum is there trying to push and promote his fighter. Because Margarito ain't faced nobody. Margarito's never faced any high-profile fighter. So he was trying to get Floyd to face Margarito. I mean, Floyd was like, why would I go back to you, Bob? You couldn't even deliver Oscar to me. Now I'm going to get Oscar. Okay? Floyd was supposed to actually face Oscar that way he faced Baldomir. But Oscar said he needed a little bit more time, and let's do it Cinco de Mayo. So instead of having it September of that year, he ended up having to find somebody to fill the slot. You heard Larry Merchant ask Shane Mosley, man, Shane Mosley, you want this fight? And Shane Mosley was like, nah, I just fought 2 hard fights just now there against Fernando Vargas. I'm going to take a chill. Next year, sure. But this year now, man, I got my vacation and everything planned. I'm not really hot up on that. Why? Because risk versus reward, y'all. Risk versus reward. If you're going to pay Shane Mosley, Floyd didn't have that money to pay Shane Mosley like that. What was Floyd going to offer Shane Mosley to get Shane Mosley to face him? You see what I'm saying? A lot of people don't think. Risk versus reward. People say, but Shane Mosley ducked Floyd. But really, it don't make no sense. It don't make no dollars. It make no sense. Roy Jones Jr. even said it. He said, why would Oscar and Shane Mosley face Floyd Mayweather at this time? Yeah, he hungry and everything. But what he got to offer? Nothing. What they got to lose? Everything. That make no sense, right? He's not one of those high-profile guys like that. So he not bringing in the big bucks. And they want big bucks. This is what it's about. Boxing's about the big bucks, ladies and gentlemen. Boxing is about people eating. All right? Don't let nobody fool you. Don't be naive. Sugar Ray Robinson was like, pay me. Oh, you ain't getting no fight tonight. Sugar Ray Robinson was my dude. Sugar Ray Robinson would tell them, yo, I'm going to walk. You better have my money. You know what I'm saying? Because Sugar Ray Robinson knew how the business was. You would fight a whole entire fight, and then guess what? Your manager would be like, yeah, we're going to pay you, but we're going to pay you down the road. You know, that's how boxing is. It's dirty, y'all. It's dirty, man. They want to talk about Sugar Ray Robinson was a great fighter. Well, pay him. If he's the greatest of all time, pay him. Pay him his money. You know how much boxers, you know, are owed money by promoters? Do you know about this? Do you guys even understand how this game go? Okay. So Floyd didn't have that money in the bag. He wanted to face Shane Mosley and all them, but Mosley was like 10 million, bro. Mosley told him from way back in the day, his father said 10 million. That was Mosley's offer. So when Floyd became the money man, when he was Money Mayweather, after the Oscar, you saw Mosley get himself into position. Mosley didn't just come in and say, Floyd, I want to face you. No. Mosley got himself into position first. He became the #1 welterweight in the world, spanking Margarito's ass. He got himself into position. Once he was the #1 welterweight, now he knew he could call the shots. He was like, oh, welterweight division, everybody, Pacquiao, Floyd, because there was the 2 top guys at the time. Pacquiao, Floyd, listen, hold up. I got something you want. I'm the #1 welterweight in the world. Fight me. Right? What did Mosley get when he fought Floyd? How much money did he get? $10 million. That was Mosley's worth. Floyd paid him the $10 million. Okay? I want you to understand, and that was Mosley's biggest payday. I want you to understand something. This sport is about legacy, no doubt about it, and bragging rights and all that. But like Floyd Mayweather so correctly said, you cannot live off of legacy unless it's in dollars and cents, meaning every time somebody watches your fight, you get paid. Every time somebody wants to use your brand, you get paid. Oh, you could live off a legacy that way, which is what Sugar Ray Leonard's doing, which is very wise. Leonard's living off a legacy. He has a brand, And even though he gives to charity and everything, he has a brand. He makes money off of those Four King stuff. That's why it's still out there. Because this is boxing, y'all. Boxing's a business. All right? Don't get it twisted. It's a business. And ain't nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it. So don't think it's dirty because it's a business. No. People do dirty things in boxing. Don't get it twisted. But that's not why it's bad. It's not bad because it's a business. Okay. All right. So let me go into some other things. I was supposed to go and burn some stuff in the back, but I'm gonna leave that alone for the moment. All right. So I'm getting back to Larry Holmes for a minute. Now, my dude said that Floyd duck and dodged some certain fighters. He never duck and dodged nobody, man. Nobody. But I would prefer to be the lineal champion of the world than just beat a dude and then they trash me for it. Because they trashed Baldomir. After he made Baldomir look stupid, right? He made Baldomir look stupid. Took the title from him, right? This is Baldomir is relentless. He was beating down everybody. 22 fight winning streak. 22 fight winning streak. Floyd brought that to the end. This dude was unstoppable. Argentinian fighter. You know the Argentinian history. You know how great their fighters are. And he was unstoppable. He beat Zab Judah. Got him by split decision, actually. It was a close decision. And Zab never got to run it back. But I'm just saying, man. Where is the cherry pick there? Explain this to me. And that's the thing that I don't understand. When people say, Floyd duck and dodge, who did he duck and dodge? Paul Williams was calling him out. Sure. Paul Williams was calling him out because Paul Williams went and he was the first guy to... He wasn't the first guy to beat Antonio Margarito. There was another guy that beat Antonio Margarito. But the first guy at welterweight to beat Antonio Margarito. Right? It was the Puerto Rican champion who beat Antonio Margarito. Once. There was a no contest for the other fight that they had at welterweight. Right? So anyway, Paul Williams beat him. Margarito was this name. He became infamous because Bob Arum was able to make a name out of Antonio Margarito because Bob Arum was pushing the narrative that Floyd ducked Margarito. So Margarito feasted off of the infamy of Floyd not facing him. All right, and he was chirping along. Oh yeah, he gonna duck and dodge me. Oh yeah, Floyd just want to duck me. So that's how he got something. But he wasn't nothing that could beat Floyd Mayweather. He didn't have what it took to beat Floyd Mayweather. Okay, he just straight up and down, no special effects, try to wear and tear you down with attrition. Right, that's all Antonio Margarito was. He would have get tagged up so much. He had been going down round lines. Floyd would just sniping that motherfucker, sniping him all over the place. I don't curse. He'd have sniped him up. If Shane Mosley was doing that on him, Floyd would have just tattooed his ass all over the place. Diego Corrales was a much better fighter than him. Oscar De La Hoya is a much better fighter than Antonio Margarito. Gennaro Hernandez is a much better fighter. All these three guys I just mentioned, Oscar, Gennaro Hernandez, and Diego Corrales, they all pressure fighters. All right? And better pressure fighters than Antonio Margarito. Knock out better opponents than Antonio Margarito. Okay? Margarito had to cheat to beat Miguel Cotto. And when we know this, Miguel Cotto went back and beat him up. He beat him up real bad and stopped him. Right? Miguel Cotto. Right? You had to cheat to beat Miguel Cotto. Alright? So Antonio Margarito, you know what I mean? He was a long reigning welterweight. That's cool. But that's about it. He ain't got really nothing. Right? And that Miguel Cotto win, I never counted it. Because he cheated. So get that out of my way. Get that out of my face. You know what I'm saying? You cheat. You didn't beat Miguel Cotto. You know? That's why when Floyd said he thinks Cotto's undefeated, I mean, Cotto wasn't undefeated. I mean, Pacquiao beat him. He agreed to the fight. Bad business. You see, it's not just about money. It's about your health. Cotto didn't understand by losing all that weight how it would take from him. And it would actually affect him negatively in the fight. Oscar De La Hoya, same thing. Oscar De La Hoya trying to do the impossible. After 7 years of never even being at welterweight, you trying to get down to welterweight? To face Floyd? That's what Floyd said. You will meet me at welterweight. And he tried. But you ain't that kind of fighter. You're not Amanda Serrano. You're not Hector Camacho. You're not Vinny Pazienza. Them guys could do it. You can't do it. You gotta know your body. And Oscar didn't know his body like that, and he didn't know how to lose the weight properly. I came down. I'm 154 right now. I came down from 180 pounds. Okay, part of it was because I got sick as well with the virus, but I came down from 100 pounds. You can see how small I am. You can see my neck is very small. I feel okay, but trying to put myself through the hard rigors and grind when I had a little bit more mass on me, I realized that I'm not the same. I might feel okay, but I'm not the same. You know what I'm saying? So guys like Cotto on there, we talking about fine-tuned athletes. You know, he wasn't the same. So when Pacquiao stopped him, and by the way, that fight could have gone to the end. Cotto versus Pacquiao, that could have gone to the end. They could have let that go to the bell. Kenny Bailey stopped it. I don't even know why he stopped it, because even Cotto and Pacquiao was watching them like, what? It could have gone to the end. He could have let him play out. Pacquiao was beating up Cotto, so he was gonna win anyway. Okay, he was gonna beat him up. I still think that Pacquiao's style would have still beat Cotto. Well, I ain't too sure, because the freaking Cotto, man. Cotto's one of my favorite fighters of all time. You know, and sometimes, I like Cotto sometimes more than Floyd. But because he made some dumb decisions, in his career, it kind of cost him. But Cotto got smart later on in his career. He understood the game really well. Cotto, man, if the Cotto that faced Zab Judah had faced Manny Pacquiao, I think he would have stopped Pacquiao like he stopped Zab Judah. Yeah, that Cotto was a beast. Okay, Margarita kind of messed up Cotto a little bit, but Cotto basically was Cotto all through his career. Like, he gave you 110% in every single fight. I always wondered. I know this is the if thing, and this is a fan thing. This is a if. If Cotto never faced Margarita with the cheating gloves, what kind of Cotto would have? Of course, I really hope that Cotto never faced Pacquiao at a catchweight. That really didn't. But he used that knowledge to use it back on guys like Sergio Martinez and Daniel Gill later on in the career. And then he faced Canelo at a catchweight as well, which benefited him. So, he kind of learned from that how the game should be played. Because again, Pacquiao, was coming up from, I believe it was super lightweight or junior welterweight. He had just faced Ricky Hatton. So they was like, let's 145, man. Let's go 145. And catchweights are not necessarily bad. People like to bash Pacquiao, the catchweight king, and this. No, it's not really bad. But it's just, who does it favor, right? Who does it favor? It's supposed to be an equalizing playing field, but who does it really favor? Cotto's a big welterweight, man. Dude be like 160 something, walking on fight night. You know what I'm saying? So the more weight, Donnie Lalonde was a light heavy, and he had to lose like 7 pounds, 8 pounds more than he normally would. I mean, that affects you. It affects you. It may not affect you in the beginning of the fight, but it definitely will affect you later on in the fight. And so, I mean, getting back to the point that I was making is that, Mayweather faced, some of the best fighters at the best time in their lives. Like, Shane Mosley was coming off of Antonio Margarita win. Yeah, he was on the shelf a little bit, but that actually worked in his favor, because when you're older, the body need rest after, any strenuous fight. So it actually gave him enough rest to do what he had to do. He did go in there in the fight with a groin injury, and I saw he really did have a groin injury. But then fighters go into all kinds of injuries. I think if he had knocked down Floyd, that adrenaline would have carried him all the way through the fight. But I think because he couldn't even get momentum after that, those 2 nice big shots that he got landed on Floyd, he couldn't get no momentum, and Floyd was just beating his ass. He started feeling the injuries, and his mind started to wander, and he couldn't stay focused and stuff like that. So, he complained about the injuries that he had. But usually, even if you go into a fight with injuries, if you're beating a guy's butt, you don't feel no injury, nothing. You on adrenaline, you know what I'm saying? So I think he couldn't get to the adrenaline. He couldn't get his momentum. He couldn't get his time in. Floyd just to be on him. And I think that's what really Shane Mosley's talking about. I'm just being very objective and very honest about certain things now. So sometimes people say fighters make excuses. They literally did feel what they feel, the groin injury and all of that. But it's also because mentally now they may be up against a challenge that they don't think they can succumb. And so mentally they already lost. You know what I mean? But you have to you have to be persistent. You have to keep your composure. Canelo Alvarez is a perfect example of that. Things may not be working out with the Caleb Plant fight. Things wasn't working out. Every now and then he get a little body shot in there, but that's about it. And the body shot that he landed on Caleb Plant in round 10, Caleb Plant even talked about it. He said it was a good body shot. He was still thinking about it going into round 11. You know what I mean? So it's boxing is a thing where it's about being mentally strong. It's not, you may have all the attributes in the world, but if you don't have this, you see what I'm saying? If you don't have that mental strength, that mental fortitude, and that mental flexibility. What I mean by that is, so mentally, you have to be able to see what it is, the end point and the end goal. That's why they say you have to play chess, not checkers. So you're really thinking like about 4 or 5 rounds down the road with every punch and every shot that you throw. You understand what I'm saying? Because you're really building towards something in boxing, especially if you're not a one-hitter quitter. There are a few fighters like Julian Jackson was a one-hitter quitter. Like he used to smoke guys. That's what he used to do. I was looking at some of his fights and I was like, oh my God. It's like, oh my God. He crack you, king, and like everything seizes up. It's like time stands still when you wake up. He actually had underrated counterpunching skills too when he shortened up the shots. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So you got to think down the road. So it takes a certain mindset. It takes a certain people say you need to be sharp and smart and all that, but it's a certain mindset you have to go into fights and prevail. So let me talk about a little bit more why I said Floyd didn't duck or dodge nobody. He did pick his fights. Obviously, he was in control, so he could pick fights, but he did not cherry pick his fights. There's 2 different things. I'm gonna explain to you. So the first thing you need to understand is that they people in Floyd's camp who would bring out a set of names, and then they would go through these names. They would really just sift through these names in serious order. Floyd done already sized up these opponents, so he know their strengths and weaknesses. I remember way back in the day in ESPN, again, I'm kind of going off course a little bit, ESPN, where people saying, Corey Spinks is this, and Floyd just stopped. He stopped the announcer. I can't remember who the announcer was. He stopped the announcer and he said, Corey Spinks, he don't bring his hands back into position. He don't bring his hands back in position. I would beat him. I would mop the floor with him. Just like that. There's Floyd at the time, Corey Spinks was the undisputed, I think, welterweight champion of the world at the time. And Floyd was at junior welterweight, right? And Floyd stopped the announcer and he just, so he done already sized up Corey Spinks. He see all the holes in his defense and everything. So when you talk about Floyd, you got to understand something. You list all the big names out there. And you hear Floyd talking about Muhammad Ali or whoever, but all the big names out there. So, you have this array of opponents that Floyd has to face. Ricky Hatton, Carlos Baldomir, Corey Spinks, Shane Mosley, right? Floyd already sized up Shane Mosley a long time ago. So Floyd was like, Shane Mosley arc his punches too much. I shoot straight down the center. I beat him to the punch every single time. You understand what I'm saying? He done already know he could beat Shane Mosley. So it was never about whether Floyd could beat this guy or beat that guy. And he's ducking and dodging that guy or that guy. When they selected an opponent, they was looking at their history, their background, how they look right now, what their latest fight was. And they looking to see who's the guy that they can make the biggest set of money with the biggest fight. Because Floyd realized, if I got to face somebody, I got to convince the public that this person could actually beat me. So he was always looking for the person who could give him the biggest money-making fight. Because Floyd always is about, what is it? Money Mayweather, right? He trying to get the most amount of money. He following Larry Holmes Advice: make the most amount of money you can and get out of the sport. So what Floyd was doing, yes, they were picking opponents, but he was looking for the opponent that was most spectacular, got most power, had the best performance. So Amir Khan shot himself in the foot by not facing Devin Alexander when he should have. He was waiting on Floyd. Meanwhile, Marcos Maidana was tattooing up Adrian Broner and on a knockout streak. So Floyd's naturally going to want Marcos Maidana to face because Marcos Maidana had shown he was always rough and rugged. He was always a problem. He always beat up people. He always mark up their face. So Floyd was like, yeah, this the dude. This the dude. Floyd be sitting in the corner, yeah. This is the most amount of money I can make right now. Right, I said, damn, I was wondering why you lost weight. You better, hold on a second there, bro. Live chat. Yeah. He said, I hope you get better soon. Now I'm getting better. I'm pretty good. I'm moving around now. Right, I said, Khan did beat Alexander. He did face Alexander. He beat him. Yeah, but that's after. Floyd, when Floyd was wanting to pick Amir Khan and Marcos Maidana, right? What happened was Amir Khan just sat on the shelf. He was supposed to face Devin Alexander. He put that off because he thought he was going to get the Mayweather fight. Because Amir Khan is a huge Mayweather fan. If you ask Amir Khan today, who does he think is better, Manny Pacquiao or Floyd Mayweather? Amir Khan will tell you to your face because he has sparred Manny Pacquiao many times. Floyd Mayweather is a greater fighter and a better fighter than Manny Pacquiao. I swear. Ask Amir Khan tomorrow. He'll tell you the same thing. Floyd is his idol. He loves Floyd. Amir Khan really loves Floyd. He loves how Floyd accomplished it. He loves how Floyd played the game. Because, again, Amir Khan comes from that school of thought. You make as much money as you can. You face the biggest opponents. If you look at Amir Khan, he never really ducked or dodged nobody. If you really think about it, Amir Khan always been looking. He wanted to face Timothy Bradley. He wanted to face the big names. Why? Because Amir Khan always wanted the biggest possible fights to make the most amount of money. He did get knocked out a couple times, though. But he understood risk versus reward. Amir Khan was never going to face Keith Thurman. What does Keith Thurman have to offer Amir Khan? Nothing. Risk versus reward. Again, a lot of you guys, Amir Khan's name is a huge name in boxing. Right? He's a huge name in boxing. So Amir Khan is, he has faced all the biggest names in boxing except for Floyd Mayweather. Amir Khan faced Marco Antonio Barrera. Amir Khan faced Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia made a name off Amir Khan in the unification, right? Faced Zab Judah. Listen to the names that Amir Khan faced, okay? Amir Khan faced Terrence Crawford. He faced Canelo Alvarez. Those are big, we talking big names in boxing. Well, Terrence Crawford wasn't, but I mean, pound for pound, Terrence Crawford was one of the greatest fighters ever. So, you got to understand, Amir Khan's resume. He's facing Kell Brook next. But Amir Khan's resume is a hell of a resume. Win, lose, or draw, he's got Hall of Famers on his resume. Canelo's going to be a Hall of Famer. Danny Garcia's going to be a Hall of Famer. Marco Antonio Barrera is already a Hall of Famer. Zab Judah is going to be a Hall of Famer. We're talking Hall of Famers here. Okay? Win, lose, or draw. This dude, he even had Marcos Maidana on his resume. And he beat Marcos Maidana. Right? So a lot of people was like, Amir Khan beat Marcos Maidana. Why didn't Floyd face Amir Khan instead of Marcos Maidana? Well, because Marcos Maidana kept on fighting and kept on making waves. All right? And to be fair, Marcos Maidana lost that fight, but he was about one punch away from knocking out Amir Khan. Everybody know this. Marcos Maidana was beating his ass down the stretch, right? 10, 11, 12. He was beating up Amir Khan. Real bad, right? But at the end of the day, he couldn't stop him. And so, because Amir Khan won by points more of the earlier rounds and then dropped Marcos Maidana early on, and Marcos Maidana didn't even drop Amir Khan, he won, right? But it was a brutal fight. I mean, broke Amir Khan's nose. All kinds of things happened there. But point is, people say Floyd duck Amir Khan because Floyd said, all right, I will leave it to the fans. And he put on his site a pick between Amir Khan and Marcus Maidana, right? And the fans, Amir Khan got all his fans to go up on the Mayweather Boxing Promotion site where there was a poll. And he brought all his fans to vote there. But the thing about it is, Floyd went with all the polls put together. So there was other sites that did polls. Right Eye says, what you need be, Amir Khan is a warrior. Hold on a second. He never ran from anyone. No, Amir Khan's but like I said before, Amir Khan is a risk versus reward kind of fighter. You know what I'm saying? Amir Khan's a risk versus reward kind of fighter. He following what Larry Holmes be saying. So it's not worth his while. Like Amir Khan was like, I fought international people, Kell Brook. Like you fought one or two guys. Okay, you went out and you fought Terrence Crawford. He dusted you. But you know, I've been on the international scene for the longest while. I've been fighting the greatest fighters, you know, of this era. I fought Canelo. Well, who do you face? You know, like, okay, so you fought Terrence Crawford. I fought Terrence Crawford. You ain't done nothing. You know what I'm saying? You ain't done nothing. I want a payday. I want a real payday. You know what I mean? I want to make it worth my while. What happens if I beat you? They ain't gonna say nothing. They'll be like, Kell Brook was done. Terrence Crawford dusted him. You know what I mean? You know, if you beat me, well, I'll be big. But that's the risk, right? Versus the reward. So that's what a lot of people don't understand in boxing. There's levels to the sport of boxing, and the levels is not just in terms of skill and also where you're placed in terms of like your positioning. That is to say, if you are a debutante or if you are what the fuck? Sorry about the cuss. If you are a prospect, so you're debutante, prospect, contender, champion, right? That's one set of levels. But then the other set of levels, which is more pertinent to boxing, is can you put butts in the seats? Can I get pay-per-view off of you? Are you a pay-per-view star? Are you somebody that fills stadiums? Do people want to see you? Because it doesn't matter if you're a champion and you're a great fighter if ain't nobody care to see you, right? We don't make no money off of you if nobody cares to see you. You must be an attraction, which means you must be a star. So Amir Khan know he's a star worldwide, right? Because the pay-per-view numbers for Canelo versus Amir Khan was good pay-per-view numbers. I think it was 500,000 pay-per-view, right? He's a star. He not just a star in the UK. He's a star globally. Whereas Kell Brook is not a star globally, right? Maybe in the UK. I mean, Kell Brook is nothing. Kell Brook don't make no money. You know what I'm saying? He don't make no money for promoters. It's Amir Khan. It's gonna be his name that will make the fight big. You know what I'm saying? So this is the thing, this business of boxing that a lot of people don't understand. So they're like Keith Thurman versus Amir Khan. Keith Thurman's a good fighter, but he's not a pay-per-view fighter. He's not a pay-per-view fighter, right? Now, he did good pay-per-view numbers with Manny Pacquiao, right? Because Manny Pacquiao chose to face Keith Thurman. And Keith Thurman's a very exciting fighter, don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted, but, you know, he's not on the level of Amir Khan. Amir Khan's actually at a higher level than Keith Thurman. Now, yeah, because Amir Khan faced Canelo. Let me see. Yeah, Amir Khan been on a number of pay-per-views. He was on the pay-per-view. He was a pay-per-view with Danny Garcia. He had the pay-per-view for Danny Garcia on HBO. So, yeah, Amir Khan's been a pay-per-view star for a while. Keith Thurman's first pay-per-view was with Manny Pacquiao. Exactly. Amir Khan is so big, he got like $10 million for fighting Billy Dibb. And he admitted it himself. There you go, 10 million pounds. So Amir Khan's a pay-per-view star. So you know, there's a lot of things people don't understand about boxing. If they understood these things, they wouldn't be like, oh, Amir Khan's ducking, dodging this guy. No, it's just that this guy ain't worth his while to face. Like, so I'm gonna explain Manny Pacquiao now, man. Manny Pacquiao had a deal with Al Heyman, and Al Heyman was paying Pacquiao freaking tremendous sums of money. We're talking like 20 something million. Okay, and Manny Pacquiao's name and just Manny Pacquiao's career and everything demands that he be paid. And Al Heyman pays. Al Heyman will pay you. Okay, there's one thing about Al Heyman. He'll pay you money, and you will get your money. You will get your check. So Pacquiao has his own promotional company just off of Al Heyman money, and some of the money he got from Bob Arum and Top Rank and stuff, right? So with Pacquiao was, freaking legend. He built up so much that with the Keith Thurman fight, he could afford to face a Keith Thurman who never had a pay-per-view, right? Keith Thurman never had a pay-per-view. I don't think, did Keith Thurman ever have a pay-per-view? He had events, but he never was a pay-per-view star. So Keith Thurman ended up doing the pay-per-view with Manny Pacquiao because Pacquiao was getting paid so much, and Pacquiao probably was getting most of the back end. Keith Thurman was getting, he got his little 8 million, 10 million, something like that, back end and everything included. And Pacquiao was getting the majority of the money because Pacquiao had built up that thing. He built up this legacy, and then becoming a free agent and being away from Bob Arum now Al Heyman was able to give him the bulk of the money. You know what I mean? And you look at Canelo. Canelo's tremendous. He gave some ridiculous. We talking cuckoo numbers, right? Besides Floyd Mayweather, ain't nobody ever get them kind of cuckoo numbers and offers that he's getting. Al Heyman be just blessing these dudes. Because Al Heyman is a dude who understands that the boxer is the attraction. The boxer is worth everything. You understand what I'm saying? So Canelo be getting paid the big dollars, baby. We're talking big money Canelo be getting. But Canelo has also his own promotional company like Manny Pacquiao. I need to get you doing these lectures on my Facebook Boxing fans page, bro. You saying some facts. Yeah. I'm just talking boxing. I'm just talking boxing how it is. So anyway, I just want to clear up that Mayweather never duck or dodge nobody. And Mayweather, he never cherry picked. I even call it a cherry pick, but Andre Berto fight, okay, Conor McGregor was kind of like a cherry pick because it's really Floyd that set up that. That Conor McGregor fight was a cherry pick. Conor McGregor, come on, man. Come on now. Now, any serious boxing fan know that wasn't even a fight, right? All right, so the Conor McGregor was a cherry pick. But this is a retired boxer coming back. It is a pro fight, but right? Now, to be fair, he made a ton of money off of that. So that's what boxing's about. Like I said before, you make the most amount of money you can without taking a lot of punishment. So that's what he did. He an old dude. He came back, right? I don't expect Floyd Mayweather to fight any one of these young guns and young bucks. He ain't that stupid. That's not his philosophy, right? Now, Pacquiao, he was taking chances with the young guns because he was staying in shape, staying ready all the time. But you see how it ended. You see what Dennis Ugas did to his body. And he going to pay for that down the road. And it's good he got out. Right after he got beat up, he just got out and he went into politics. And I would suggest to Manny Pacquiao that you come back to boxing to do this. Exhibitions. Make your money off of exhibitions. You're such a big superstar and everything. Do exhibitions, man. Forget about the pro game. Like Floyd. Floyd ain't coming back into no pro game. Maybe to face Oscar, maybe. Or some old-timer of his era. But, I don't see Floyd taking any kind of risk like these young, hungry lions right now. No. Why? For what? To say he won a fight against these young, hungry lions and it'll go down in legacy. His legacy. For what, though? For why? Why? That'd be stupid. So, I don't think it make no sense to do that. Pacquiao, on the other hand, he loved to fight. He loved to box. If he could, he would continue boxing. But I think he did the wise thing. He got a tremendous paycheck again, just facing your Dennis Ugas. Tremendous. This dude getting, compared to everybody else in the boxing arena, except for Canelo, this dude was getting paid tremendous sums of money. Okay, we talking like 28 million. A fight, 25 million. All to him. 100% that going to Pacquiao. That's probably the most he got paid in his whole entire career, and that's just life-changing money. Period. And that's a big money. He's been offered $45 million. You know what I mean? That's almost your mind can't wrap your mind around that. I can't wrap my mind around that kind of money. You know what I mean? That's a big dollars. You know what I'm saying? You know, Oscar De La Hoya never got that kind of money. So, you know, Pacquiao and Floyd, they changed the whole way of boxing was and the worth of boxers. And this is why these young boxers now are like, pay me what I'm worth. And you got to stick to your guns. You got to stick to your guns. And they will pay you eventually what you're worth. Shane Mosley proved that. $10 million. Way back in 1999. $10 million. He stuck to his guns. Floyd paid him $10 million. Tariq HH says, Floyd is better because he beat him and never lost and went against 26 champions. 22, actually. Not 26. It's 22. He had 26 championship fights, but he faced 22 world champions. He had 2 rematches against Marcos Maidana and against Jose Luis Castillo. So it's actually 22. 22 world champions. Yeah. Because 2 world champions he had 4 fights with. In all. So it's 22 world champions. Yeah. Manny Pacquiao, he beat, I think it's 20 or 21 world champions. But here's the difference. Floyd faced 22 consecutive world champions, former, present, future. And he beat 22 consecutive world champions. Ain't nobody in the history of boxing did that. Nobody. That's a record in and of itself. I'm going to give you all another record that's in and of itself that a lot of people don't talk about with Floyd Mayweather. It's just what it is. He the longest reigning world champion who matched Joe Louis's record of 26 consecutive championship wins, as also did Cecilia Brækhus. But after those 22 consecutive championship wins, he never lost. Unlike Joe Louis and Cecilia Brækhus, he went on to win his next fight, which was a non-championship fight, which was against Conor McGregor. So that's another Guinness Books of Records kind of stuff right there going on. He had record after record. He's done a lot of different records that a lot of people don't know about. Manny Pacquiao is crazy too when it comes to the records. And we're gonna talk about that. But first, I wanted to just get it clear. 1, Floyd Mayweather, yes, he picked his opponents at a certain point in time because he was in the position to pick his opponents. And you know, Manny Pacquiao was in the position to pick his opponents later on in his career when he picked, you know, to face Lucas Matthysse. He had been freed of Bob Arum's contract after the Jeff Horn fight, so he picked Lucas Matthysse to face, he picked Adrian Broner to face, he picked Keith Thurman to face, and he picked Dennis Ugas to face. Well, actually, it was a last-minute change-up, but yeah, he still accepted it. So Manny Pacquiao was actually in charge of his own self for those last set of fights. Now, the biggest fights of Floyd Mayweather's career was when he was in charge of his career, which is why he made so much money. And you can't have no big fight. Come on, y'all. You can't have no big fight if you don't have a serious threat in front of you. Nobody gonna pay to see that. All right? And people pay to see Floyd Mayweather fight. Let me mention the guys that he faced so you guys will understand. This is not cherry picking. I'm going through it so you guys will understand. I want to clear the air on Floyd Mayweather a lot, and then I want to clear the air on Manny Pacquiao a lot. So with Floyd Mayweather, he faced after he left Bob Arum, he faced Carlos Baldomir. We already realized the alternative was either Antonio Margarito, Ricky Hatton, Corey Spinks. Okay, these were the guys out there. It wasn't just Carlos Baldomir. There were 4 options he had. All right, Ricky Hatton wanted to face him as well. All right, so he had 4 options at the time. Ricky Hatton had just beaten Louis Collazo for the WBA welterweight championship of the world. Yes, Louis Collazo almost stopped him in the 12th round, but the point is, he dropped Louis Collazo in the 1st round, and he was dominating the fight until he started fading late. The point is, he fought at welterweight. People always say Ricky Hatton was too small for Floyd. He was not too small for Floyd. Ricky Hatton was a bigger dude than Floyd. He hadn't fought at welterweight much, you could say that, but you can't say he was too small for Floyd. Ricky in the fight against Louis Collazo, 159 pounds. He was almost a middleweight. In fact, he was a middleweight. Louis Collazo came in 151. Okay? So for those of you who don't know, now you know. Oh, and Ricky Hatton came into the Floyd Mayweather fight 150 pounds plus. Ricky Hatton was the physically bigger dude than Floyd Mayweather. The problem with Ricky Hatton was he didn't have the same stamina that he had at super lightweight. So he would fade later on in the fight. And then Floyd was hitting him with so many body shots. Floyd was just doing a really relentless body attack that Ricky Hatton was fading. All right. And then he started really taking punishment. Flush shots Floyd was hitting him with on the inside. And sometimes he spaced him out with the jab and then just really snipe him from the outside. And he just got banging him up to the body on the inside. Body to head, body to head. Floyd was just throwing those combinations and spinning and shifting off to the side and just rocking combinations in Ricky Hatton. And that's how he eventually took him out. But Ricky Hatton was the bigger dude, and Floyd even said it. Ricky Hatton came to fight. If Floyd didn't know what he knew, Ricky Hatton would have beaten Floyd. He almost dropped Floyd in the first round with a leaping jab. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. If you have never seen a leaping jab before, Ricky Hatton has done it. Okay? Ricky Hatton had quick feet, quick hands, freaking hell of a chin. He could take a punch, and he had power in both hands. Y'all getting tripped. Y'all tripping about Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton was crazy. If it wasn't for his management and putting him back into the ring so soon, Ricky Hatton might have been a superstar beyond what we seen before. Of course, a boy liked to drink. He liked to eat. So he would blow up in weight, get over past 200 pounds, and then he had to lose all that weight to come back and fight. That was the problem with Ricky Hatton. He had a Roberto Duran complex because he was a big dude. Ricky Hatton's a big dude. Physically, he's big and he's strong. That's what a lot of people, man, y'all tripping, man. Y'all need to know who these guys are. People don't have no respect for fighters these days. You know what I mean? Ricky Hatton was a bad boy. There's a reason he was lineal champion. There was a reason he was unified champion with 3 of the 4 belts at super lightweight. There's a reason he beat Costa Tzu. Besides Costa Tzu having the rotator cuff injury problems. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason Ricky Hatton was what he was. And people just don't respect him. And a lot of people love Ricky Hatton too. But Manny Pacquiao put him to sleep. Woo! Manny Pacquiao a bad boy too. Alright, so don't get it twisted. I love boxers, man. I have love for boxers because I know what they go through. I know how difficult it is to do this sport. I have a lot of love for boxers. Khan would have beaten Hatton. Yeah. Khan had ridiculous hand speed. That hand speed would have been the undoing of Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton would have run into every single shot for sure. Amir Khan's something else too. He got real fast hands. The only problem with Amir Khan sometimes when he attacking you coming down a line, his head is down center line. So that's how Terrence Crawford caught him with that left hook. Costa Tzu had a long layoff before he fought Ricky Hatton. Yeah, but because his shoulder, rotator cuff injury. But I don't think that's the problem. I don't think Costa Tzu, I don't think it was so much the layoff because again, when you get older in the game, the more rest you get, the better. You're gonna have a little ring rust. You know what I mean? But I don't think so because if you look at Keith Thurman had surgery on his arm and he came back and fought Mario Barrios. Of course, Costa Tzu fought a much higher level opponent in Ricky Hatton, right? So and Ricky Hatton was real hungry. But I'm just saying that and Ricky Hatton had power and everything. And it's hard to stop Ricky Hatton. You ain't stopping Ricky Hatton with one punch. Floyd kind of broke his chin in a way because and it wasn't really Floyd. It was the turnbuckle, right? When he ran into the turnbuckle and fell down. Because, Ricky Hatton had a beard, man. Ricky Hatton could take a punch. But, I think Hatton was just too much for Costa Tzu. He was just, if you look at the style that beat Costa Tzu, Vince Phillip, right? When Vince Phillip beat Costa Tzu, he was overwhelming Costa Tzu. He was coming in there and roughing him up on the inside and beating him up, Costa Tzu can't handle that. He's like a sharpshooter. He's like a sniper. And he got to get that range. He got to get that distance at mid-range, And he's very, very choicey with his shots. And, he had that power and everything, So if you rush Costa Tzu and you really don't make him, you crowd him and stuff, most of the guys that beat Costa Tzu, they crowd him. They crowd him and they rough him up on the inside. Take him physically, rough him up. Move him around, shift him around, push him to the ropes, put your weight down on him, that kind of stuff. So Ricky Hatton was doing that relentlessly. Like, you get him up in the corner and just jam up on him and just, ran into those body shots and just ripping those body shots and uppercuts all up the center and stuff. Ricky Hatton was roughing him up. And I think that's what and then Zoo, like you say, he was out of the ring for a little while, so he was trying to get his timing and flow back. And Hatton wasn't giving him time of day. Hatton's like a Sean Porter, he's on you. He's on you for 12 rounds. You know what I mean? And at super lightweight, where he had the weight advantage and everything, because he coming in like what 151, 152. Costa Zoo's not a big dude. He come in like maybe 140, 145. So like Hatton done already got 7 pounds on him. And you see Hatton just working him and just putting all that weight down on him and everything. Yeah, he will tire you out. And you a veteran. You an old guy. So the young guy's pushing you. So that's what happened with Zoo. So he ended up retiring. He didn't re-injure his arm or anything. So I knew his arm was okay. So I knew that Costa Zoo is still a bad boy. If you see this dude is ridiculous shape. I saw him. Tim Zoo, man. Tim Zoo be Skyping his father, or, video chatting his father, and you see his father in some ridiculous shape. Costa Zoo is in ridiculous shape and that's the other thing I like about athletes. I like that if you keep yourself in shape after boxing, some guys let themselves go, but Costa Zoo, he keep himself in shape, boy. I love that. I love to see boxers Sugar Ray Leonard. I see him keep himself in shape. You know what I'm saying? I love that. I even see Roberto Duran. Roberto Duran has lost all that weight and he looked fit and stuff. You know what I mean? And that's what you want to do. You want to keep yourself in order. The average fan, don't sit down on the couch and get all these tires on you, man. All them couch potatoes guys, man. Go in the gym, or if you don't got no gym, go outside and work, and get your body in shape. I got my little 4-pack, my little 5-pack, my little 6-pack going on. I'm 47 years of age. You know what I'm saying? And I'm in shape, dude. Hatton would have beaten Junior Witter too. Yeah, Junior Witter had called him out. And Hatton wanted to make the fight, but I don't know what happened. Hatton was a beast, man. Hatton was a beast. Y'all can say what you want about Ricky Hatton because, Pacquiao and Mayweather knocked him out, but he was a beast. It's just he wasn't managed properly. I really wish he was managed much better. But again, all of these factors are factors that you have to consider to become a champion. It is not just your skill. It's not just your ability. It's the people you have around you. And if they're not just trying to grab money, they also are interested in you. People talk about loyalty, but what they really mean is, are these people genuinely interested in your well-being? Leonard Ellaby, the team that Floyd had was genuinely interested in Floyd's well-being. Al Heyman and Leonard Ellaby. When you look at Manny Pacquiao, he got people working for him who interested in his well-being, and the reason they're interested in his well-being is because they make money when he's doing well. If he does well and succeeds, if he becomes president of the Philippines, I don't know if he will. For all his supporters and stuff, and all these people who talk about Pacquiao, y'all should be voting for this dude. What's wrong with y'all, man? All you people who was online talking about Pacquiao the greatest boxer and all of that, man, vote for the dude. Let the man become president so he can make another. He can make another accolade. You know what I'm saying? I would love to see Pacquiao as president of the Philippines. I think that would be a blessing. Versus whoever is right now running the Philippines, Duarte or whatever his name is. And y'all shouldn't let the politics fool you. You should back the dude all the way to the end. Because I think Pacquiao as president of the Philippines would be a blessing. That would be a very good thing. Because he's that kind of dude. I know that. But yeah, so with respect to Floyd, so you guys get to understand, he followed the Larry Holmes model. It's about the most amount of money. So if you look at Mayweather's opponents, we're going to go to Pacquiao's opponents, don't worry. But when you look at Mayweather's opponents, when he was his own boss, Vladimir, better than Margarito. Okay, this is what the guy claimed he ducked. And then Oscar de la Hoya, better than Margarito, because it was still Margarito they were pushing. But come on, man. I mean, Margarito was Oscar's sparring partner. Okay, Margarito was Oscar's sparring partner. Okay. So I make that make sense. And then it was Paul Williams, because Paul Williams beat Margarito. So everybody was drumming the Paul Williams thing. But Paul Williams was not a better boxer than Ricky Hatton. He just wasn't. What did he have? What did he bring to the table? Ricky Hatton brought a whole country to the table. Ricky Hatton had extensive history as a world champion. He had beaten Hall of Famers. He had beaten top champions. He had beaten champions both at welterweight and at junior welterweight. What did Paul Williams bring to the table? The number one contender for Floyd Mayweather's lineal title was Ricky Hatton. It wasn't Miguel Cotto. The ring has it as Miguel Cotto. It wasn't Miguel Cotto. It was Ricky Hatton. Miguel Cotto had Ricky Hatton's title. Ricky Hatton had vacated his title to go back down to junior welterweight. He wanted to say he had won something at welterweight, right? So he went up to welterweight, tested himself against the slick, skilled, very difficult fighter, Louis Collazo. So it wasn't surprising that Collazo hurt Ricky Hatton coming down to the end. This is not surprising. Collazo was a spoiler. Collazo beat Victor Ortiz, didn't he? He spoiled there. He spoiled, you saw he almost beat Keith Thurman. He spoiled there. This is Louis Collazo we're talking about. He even broke Amir Khan's nose. Okay? Yeah, Khan dropped him a couple of times, but he broke Amir Khan's nose. This is Louis Collazo. Y'all don't have no respect for fighters, I'm saying. Gave Andre Berto all he could handle. Berto pulled it out by the skin of his teeth. Gave Shane Mosley the run for his money. They gave Mosley the decision, but really, Louis Collazo could have easily won that fight. You could have given that fight to Louis Collazo. So I'm just saying, y'all have no idea. I mean, Paulie Malignaggi has a lot of respect for Louis Collazo because Louis Collazo showed he's quality, and he's still fighting. I think to this day, Louis Collazo is still fighting. Okay, Louis Collazo is the guy that exposed that Keith Thurman. Body shots is part of his weakness. He had to brush up on that because, you can catch him when he's throwing his right hand. You understand what I'm saying? It's Louis Collazo. This the dude that almost stopped Ricky Hatton, right? In the 12th round. So it ain't no shame that Ricky Hatton almost got stopped by Louis Collazo, but he still ended up beating him because he beat him the majority of the fight. Louis Collazo is a dangerous guy. I think he upset an undefeated fighter. Also, if I'm not mistaken, about 2 or 3 years ago, there was this guy on the rise, a hot prospect, just like what Gabe Rosado did to the Russian dude, and he knocked the guy out. Okay, this is what Louis Collazo does. All right, so I mean, Hatton fought a really good fighter at welterweight, and it's a pity Louis Collazo never regained the world championship again. But he's an underrated fighter that a lot of people overlook. And again, I'm just talking boxing. I don't know about y'all, but I really appreciate fighters. And when you look at their body of work, Paulie Malignaggi, Louis Collazo, a lot of people go in on Paulie Malignaggi, but you will not find a guy who could jab and use his jab better than Paulie can. Unfortunately for Paulie, because of his broken hands, kind of like a Floyd Mayweather kind of thing, you couldn't really see him use his right hand as much as you really could. Paulie had to learn to just use one hand. He was a one-handed fighter. He had a really good jab, and that was it. But Paulie used to win fights just off of the jab. But Paulie, man, if he put the right hand down on you, like you really sit and throw, Paulie was bad. Paulie was bad, man. Paulie used to, he used to stop people. He used to stop people, believe it or not. But he had bad hands, man. Some of these really gifted fighters had bad hands. Pernell Whitaker had bad hands. Floyd Mayweather had bad hands because it's not so much how they throw, but it's how much they train. They train so much that they damage their knuckles. You know what I'm saying? Because these guys are extreme. They would train they really train. Too much sometimes. You know what I mean? That's how Floyd got a rotator cuff injury, punching a heavy bag. You know what I mean? So going back to what I was saying. Yeah. Kawasaki had bad hands. Yeah, exactly. Joe Kawasaki, another one of the baddest boys ever to grace the sport of boxing. They're training. They train and they overtrain. They not overtrain, but they would overdo certain things. And when the body get a little older, it will you mess up your rotator. A rotator cuff is a common thing in boxing, but you mess up your rotator cuff. You know what I mean? And now we know you have to use chiropractics and stuff to relax the muscles in here because sometimes you overwork something in here And I have a rotator cuff injury in this arm here. I can't even go straight up like I really want to in this arm. You know, I damaged it with basketball, and these guys, they the top tier athletes. You can't be having these kinds of injuries, but they do. Frank Bruno, yeah, man. Frank Bruno, oh yeah, oh yeah. Frank Bruno looks really good. Um, but I'm just going back to what I was saying about boxing a little bit with Floyd. So yeah, let me get through Floyd because we're on 2 hours. We've been talking boxing. I could talk boxing forever, but that's not good. So let me hit y'all guys with this. So Mayweather, we got Oscar, right? We have Valdemir, okay? Then we have Ricky Hatton, okay? Who was better than Ricky Hatton at the time? Who would make the biggest fight with Floyd right at that time? Ricky Hatton. So that's why he faced Ricky Hatton, okay? Did they pick Ricky Hatton? Absolutely. Was Ricky Hatton a cherry pick? Hell no. Could Ricky Hatton move up to welterweight and fight Floyd Mayweather? Absolutely. He had done it before, and he had won. Okay? So it wasn't Ricky Hatton was too small. It wasn't that Ricky Hatton was. Would Floyd have gone down to super lightweight to face Ricky Hatton? Hell no. Unlike guys like Amanda Serrano, unlike Hector Camacho, Floyd never went back down in weight. Manny Pacquiao went back down in weight to face Ricky Hatton because Manny Pacquiao wasn't a welterweight at the time. He had only had one welterweight fight, which was against Oscar De La Hoya. He had came up from lightweight to fight Oscar De La Hoya. Today, in today's day and age, would Manny Pacquiao be able to go down to junior welterweight and face a junior welterweight? No, because Manny Pacquiao had become acclimatized to welterweight. Okay, but Manny Pacquiao did have a series of catch weights at welterweight. He did have catch weights, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But to say he was going all the way down to junior welterweight, he can't do that anymore. He never could. This is why he had catch weights. Marquez had to come up in weight at a catch weight to face Manny Pacquiao. The 2 times he had to face Manny Pacquiao after Pacquiao had come up to welterweight, right? So that just tells you Pacquiao couldn't make 140 anymore. Oh, he wasn't going to try and bother. And Mayweather couldn't make, less than 146. Mayweather was like around 146. He wasn't trying to make 144 and them kind of things, right? So, anyway, Ricky Hatton came up, faced Floyd Mayweather, okay? And then when you look at the other fighter, and these are all Hall of Famers we're talking about now, from here on in. You're talking Oscar's a Hall of Famer, Ricky Hatton's a Hall of Famer, Juan Manuel Marquez, Ricky Hatton's going to be a Hall of Famer, if y'all don't know. Marquez is a Hall of Famer already. That's the next guy Floyd faced. And again, Marquez had to come up in weight. Marquez was trying to get the catch weight. Floyd did not honor the catch weight. He had to pay money for that. Well, Floyd come in the usual Floyd weight, which is somewhere between 146 and 150. Floyd came in that fight night. You could just look at Floyd and you see he didn't really come in any different than he usually do. He just decided he wasn't losing that extra weight to put strain on his body, and he paid for it, right? So Marquez came up in weight to 140. I think it was 148 tonight. And for Floyd, obviously weight didn't have nothing to do with this fight. I'm going to explain to you why. In fighting, if you want to use your weight as an advantage against your opponent, then you have to physically put your body weight on your opponent. Right? If you're the bigger guy, if you're fighting a guy, right? And you're the bigger guy. Physically, weight-wise. To be a weight bully, you have to actually put your weight down on the dude. It's not just your boxing. Yeah, you may punch a little harder because you're heavier, but it's really your physical weight. You have to actually wrestle them. You have to push them to the ropes. You have to bully them around. That's how you tire out your opponent, by putting Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. When he was being very aggressive and beating up Deontay Wilder, is because he was using his weight on him. He's putting his weight down on him. He's headlocking him and all that kind of stuff, right? So, hold on a second, people. Somebody just came here. Good morning. Hi, morning. Morning. Hi. I can't do it today. Sorry. Sorry. Oh man, it's a lot of people asking for help these days, man. I've just been, man, it's been rough. I couldn't, I couldn't help out today. I really couldn't. I feel real bad about it though. I was out yesterday and like about three people in succession met me and asked for help. I think I helped out the third person. Um, it's just so many people right now asking for help, and it's really distressing. Anyways, man. Yeah. Yeah. So again, Marquez. They say he was too small for Floyd, but he wasn't too small for Pacquiao when he came up in weight to face Pacquiao, right? So nah, I'm not into that. You know what I'm saying? Right? I says times are hard, bro. Same in Trinidad, same in the UK, same in Ghana. Man, it's very very rough, bro. It's very very rough. You know, one of my neighbors just helped her out though. They helping her out right now. So I wasn't able to help her out, but other people are gonna help her out. Man, we've been. I saw like 4 or 5 people. I gave one guy, I think, some money. The other person, I think I bought something for them to eat. Um, I went up into the city, and then in the city area, there was more people. It was just very distressing, very distressing. And there are also people who are selling things. And you can see people really selling stuff and just really trying to just make ends meet. You know what I mean? This pandemic, man, is really rocked the whole place. I grow my own food and stuff. Uh, Now, anyways, back to what I was saying. So, yeah, um, the dudes that I was talking about there, Marquez, right? Now, so after the Marquez fight, so who could have Floyd at that time faced at 2009? All right, so in 2009, Marquez had just stopped what's his name? Juan Juan Diaz. Okay, young in his prime fighter. You know, was a unified champion. He just stopped Juan Diaz. So he did it at lightweight. He jumped up 2 weight classes to face Floyd Mayweather. Kind of what Shane Mosley did, what Pacquiao did. Except uh, Floyd Mayweather was the former pound-for-pound fighter. Manny Pacquiao at the time had stopped Ricky Hatton. He had stopped Oscar De La Hoya. And Ricky Hatton had replaced Floyd as the pound-for-pound fighter, right? Not Ricky Hatton, sorry. Manny Pacquiao, right? So Pacquiao was pound-for-pound #1 fighter. And Marquez, his nemesis, was chasing him down. He was pound-for-pound #2 fighter in the world. And for those people who don't know what pound-for-pound means, it means pound-for-pound, weight not involved, skills only. I'm a greater fighter than you, right? And Marquez proved he was pound-for-pound as well, because Marquez went through 4 divisions, the fourth one being welterweight. So Marquez jumped up from lightweight to welterweight, called out Floyd Mayweather. He was like, this is what you do. If you can't get the current pound-for-pound fighter, and there's another pound-for-pound fighter that was around, who this pound-for-pound fighter would replace, and maybe that guy's in retirement or whatever, you call out that dude. So Marquez said, I call out Floyd Mayweather. And Floyd Mayweather was like, boom. He was just chilling or whatever, and he was like, what? Okay. I want a Pacquiao fight, so I'm gonna face you. Marquez was pound-for-pound #2. So when Floyd beat Marquez, Floyd became pound-for-pound #2. And did he beat Marquez? It wasn't even close, right? He outboxed him, he out-finessed him, he banged him up. Some people were saying, man, I hope Marquez makes it to the finish line because Floyd was just bullying him, beating him up. But when I say bullying him, not bullying him in the sense of putting his body weight on him. He was boxing him from the outside and just tagging him up. And, of course, Marquez ain't got that reach, and he can't close the distance. And when he does, he gets dropped. I mean, he caught Floyd with one or two good shots, but for the most part, it was flawless performance by Floyd, stepping around him, going under him. It was just, he was just target practice. So after that target practice, where Marquez survived because he's tough, um, and Marquez couldn't get going at all. That's the thing with Floyd. Floyd, he'll take all your momentum from you, and he's beating you up, right? That's the thing with Floyd, right? It was like a video game. um, but Marquez, he got outboxed, right? He just totally outboxed, outclassed. And Marquez was just like, at the end of the fight, Marquez is watching you like, man, his style is just so complicated. And Marquez is making this kind of face. Because Marquez is a very smart fighter, alright? He's a very smart fighter. But he's bamboozled. He does not know what Floyd is doing, right? He's confused in there. He's trying to generate a fight and go toe to toe and have something happen, and it's just not happening. He's only eating punches, right? So he's like, at the end of the fight, he doesn't even know what happened. He's like, what did this dude just do me? So he's quite confused. He's, every time Marcus has to talk about Floyd, he says his style is just so complicated. You can see his face is like, oh man, this dude is just problems. And so that's basically what happened. So when people say that Floyd was the bigger fighter, and come on, man, come on, no, it wasn't that. Yeah, he's physically longer than Marcus. He used his advantage to fight him on the outside, but it was more that his boxing skill was on display, kind of like Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia. Yeah, where Errol Spence outboxed Mikey Garcia. He showed his boxing skills on display. Did he want to get him out of there? Absolutely. But the point is, he outboxed. He just everything that Mikey did, he was just better at. Right? He wasn't a weight bully in that fight. He was just better. Right? And he proved to us that Errol Spence he can really box. He can really fight. That's what he showed in that fight. Again, Mikey Garcia was a pound-for-pound fighter. Was Mikey Garcia too small for Errol Spence? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It had nothing to do with size. It had everything to do with boxing skill. Whatever Mikey Garcia brought to the table, Errol was able to answer. Using his length, using his reach, using his height, using his... But then Errol would fight him on the inside, because Errol's an excellent inside fighter. And he'd be beating up Mikey Garcia on the inside as well. Right? Showing he could collapse his arms, compress himself, dip into his stance, and get super low and get under Mikey Garcia and dig those shots. It's crazy. Impressive. Very, very impressive. And so Errol Spence is a fighter that I can't really say who's going to win between him and Terrence Crawford when they face. They're two phenomenal fighters. But back to what I was saying. So Floyd just outmaneuvered, outboxed Manny Pacquiao, outboxed Juan Manuel Marquez. Right? He made it look easy, right? Floyd makes his fights look easy, right? I mean, Ricky Hatton gave him a tougher fight. So what did it mean, though? This means that Mayweather is just in a whole other league, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, there's never been a boxer like Mayweather, like that. I mean, no, I'm wrong about that. There've been boxers like Mayweather. There've been boxers like Mayweather, but no boxer accomplished what he accomplished like that, right? So people made the excuse that Marquez was too small. They made the excuses that Floyd made Marquez come up and weight, face him. They had all kinds of excuses to make when Marquez volunteered to come up to welterweight to face Floyd. Floyd obviously couldn't go down to lightweight to face Marquez. Marquez was the pound-for-pound number 2 fighter. Floyd was retired. He was coming out of retirement. Didn't look like he had any ring rust. He fought like if he didn't even have a ring rust because he's a gym rat. Everybody know Floyd be in the gym all the time. So Floyd even, fought Marquez, was a virtuoso performance once again. Um, he did whatever he wanted with Marquez. Marquez was tough, so he didn't get to stop him, but he was tough. And because of that, Shane Mosley bummed in, and Shane Mosley said, "Well, let you and me get along. Let's get it on." And Floyd was like, "What? Hold your horses," because Floyd want to face Pacquiao. It's Pacquiao he want. He beat up Marquez. He tried to show Marquez ain't no big deal. Pacquiao, you struggling with this dude? You really? That was the point. If y'all didn't know, Floyd was trying to show what he would do against Marquez. Floyd was trying to show you how superior he was as a boxer to the nemesis of Pacquiao. He was trying to show you how much greater he was than Pacquiao. And y'all missed the boat. And a lot of y'all out there was like, Floyd had to beat on little Marquez. You know what I'm saying? He beating on little Marquez. And Shane Mosley showed up and was like, "Hey, man, I'm a full-blown welterweight. You pick on this little dude. I'm a full-blown..." So this is what Mosley was basically saying. It's like, face somebody that's real, man. I'm just joking. Mosley was very polite. Bernard Hopkins tried to jump into the equation. That's where Floyd was like, hey, all right, chill. I'm talking to Mosley. I ain't talking to you. I'm talking to Mosley. So that was really what went down. And Floyd tried to grab the microphone from Max Kellerman, and Max Kellerman just turned it over to the host. So that was what that whole row was. Mosley was very respectful. Even though he kind of crashed the party, he was very respectful. And again, Mosley being respectful is old school. Mosley was basically saying, let's get it on for the fans, you know what I mean? But Floyd wanted to face Pacquiao, and Mosley didn't realize that the whole point behind coming back and facing Marquez and becoming pound for pound number 2 fighter in the world by beating Marquez was to be able to face the pound for pound number 1 guy. Floyd was aligning himself, putting himself into position to be able to say, all right, let me get the Pacquiao fight. You understand what I'm saying? That's what y'all don't understand. So it's always about the biggest fights. There ain't no way. His name is Money Mayweather. His name is Money Mayweather. If he can make the biggest possible payday possible, he was going to do it. Because guess what? He followed Larry Holmes' example. Larry Holmes said, get in the game, make as much money as possible, and get out of it with all your faculties. Don't mess around in there. And Floyd understood what it was that he was supposed to do. So he was going after the biggest fight in boxing, which was Manny Pacquiao in his weight class. He was going after Pacquiao. Clearly, that was his mission. He was going after Pacquiao. But he didn't get Pacquiao. The first time negotiations fell through because Pacquiao felt like, dude, I'm the A side. I'm the number 1 fighter in the world. They was fighting over that to start with. And Floyd was making all these demands because Floyd was the number 1 fighter in the world. So Floyd's moving like he's still the number 1 fighter in the world because nobody dethroned him. And Pacquiao at the same time is saying, no, bro, I'm the number 1 fighter in the world. I call the shots. What are you talking about? This independent drug testing. What are you talking about? This is something new. What's wrong with you? What are you trying to infer about me? You know what I'm saying? I'm offended. So Manny Pacquiao didn't want to agree to the stipulations that Floyd had put in place in his camp and Bob Arum. It was like, what's this? What's all this? You know what I mean? You want to face us or you don't want to face us? What's all these new stipulations that you put in? So basically, when you got 2 top dogs that have to make a fight, it's very hard for 2 top dogs to make a fight immediately with each other. That's the first thing y'all need to realize. It ain't easy. This is not... Manny Pacquiao wasn't no Jake LaMotta. He wasn't no Tony Zale. He wasn't no all them guys that Sugar Ray Robinson faced, Gene Fullmer. No, this was a dude that had been doing it and doing it big since flyweight. This man been champion. By the time he faced Floyd Mayweather, he had been champion about 8 times or something like that. 8 or 9 times he had been world champion. Okay, this dude been there, done that. Floyd Mayweather, he'd been there, done that. He'd been champion multiple times. He'd been the top dog. He'd been the top draw since Oscar De La Hoya. And now this other dude, he take the pound for pound number 1 position. But unlike Floyd Mayweather, who wanted the Oscar De La Hoya fight, I don't think that Pacquiao wanted the Floyd Mayweather fight. To be honest with you, he was cool. You know, he was like, "Who's this dude?" All right, cool. But you know, I don't need you, Floyd. I don't need you. So because of that, Pacquiao didn't take that first fight and that first offer and that first arrangement. He wasn't like Floyd. Floyd wanted Oscar De La Hoya. Floyd wanted Oscar. You want to talk about fights that Floyd wanted? He wanted Oscar bad. He wanted Oscar since the 1990s. He wanted Oscar. Okay. Since he came into the game, he wanted Oscar. He wanted that top spot. He wanted to be the top dog. Once he got that top spot and he was the top dog, he wasn't giving up his privilege as top dog. He wasn't giving it up. So Floyd was like, hey, man, there's the stipulations that I have for you to face me so that we could see that you clean and it's a clean sport. Because we got some question marks. So we just wanted the air cleared. We just want to make sure it's a equal playing field. That's all Floyd had. It's the same stipulation that Floyd had for Manny Pacquiao back in 2010 that he used in 2015. It's the same thing. He never changed nothing, right? So Manny Pacquiao being the top dog that he is now, he got some clout with Bob Arum and everything, and he's now pound for pound number one fighter in the world. Floyd was pound for pound number one fighter in the world when he faced Oscar De La Hoya. All right? He called no shots. He had no stipulations. Even though he had been multiple weight champion in four different divisions, four different divisions, he called no shots against Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar called all the shots. So Floyd was like, yo, you might be pound for pound number one in the world, all of that stuff, but I call the shots here. And Bob Arum was like, listen, man, and Floyd's doing business now with Bob Arum. Bob Arum was like, no. I promoted you before. I call the shots here. So it was Floyd versus Bob Arum. Just what Floyd did not want. Because Floyd had moved away from Bob Arum. He hadn't done no business with Bob Arum until this point in time. So Bob Arum was like, I promoted you and everything. And I call the shots here. Because, promoters, how they... And Floyd was like, no, I call the shots here. So Bob Arum probably put it on his foot, which is why Pacquiao never really faced Floyd. That's what I think it was all down to business. And Bob Arum didn't want Pacquiao to face Floyd. But Pacquiao wasn't the one who was dying to face Floyd. Pacquiao wasn't dying to face Floyd at that time. And that's the thing. Because if Pacquiao was dying to face Floyd, he wouldn't have said up to my promoter Bob Arum. He would have never said that. You understand? And there's nothing on Pacquiao. Pacquiao was doing his thing. He was happy. You know what I'm saying? He was doing his thing. But when you think about the business aspect of it and everything, Floyd wanted Oscar De La Hoya. Pacquiao didn't want Floyd like that. That's why that fight never went through. If Pacquiao wanted Floyd, if he really wanted Floyd, shit, that fight would have happened. That fight would have happened. And again, I'm not saying that he ducked and dodged Floyd or none of that. I ain't going to go there because I know how these negotiations go. But I'm saying Arum flexes muscles on Floyd. I'm pretty sure about that. I'm sure Bob Arum flexed his muscles on Floyd and was like, now, you ain't going to... Just like what he doing with Devin Haney. He said, you ain't getting no Lomachenko fight. And that was that. All right? And Bob Arum was like, probably told Floyd or told his team, you ain't getting no Pacquiao fight. You ain't getting no Pacquiao fight. And that's that. You know what I'm saying? Because, Floyd bought out his contract with Bob Arum. He didn't. Bob Arum looking back and saying, you could have helped Margarito. You could have given Margarito something to eat. You could have given Margarito something to eat. Why didn't you give Margarito something to eat? So, no, you ain't getting no Pacquiao. You know what I'm saying? Because it's promoters, man. Promoters, they don't forget. Al Heyman, Bob Arum, they don't forget. Al Heyman not a promoter, but you do him something and it's bad, and in his mind it's bad business, he's not doing no more business with you like that. And I just feel Bob Arum, because Floyd never did nothing with Top Rank until the Pacquiao fight. I'm talking about the 2015. He didn't work with. He worked with Golden Boy. He never worked with Top Rank. He never faced none of the Top Rank fighters until the Pacquiao fight in 2015. So Floyd, once he left Bob Arum, he hadn't done no business with Bob Arum until 2015. So from 2006, or was it 2005? I think it was 2005 all the way up to 2015. 10 years he didn't do no business with Bob Arum. You understand what I'm saying? So that was what was going down. So Floyd Mayweather versus Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao happened because Bob Arum stepped aside. He had to step aside, and Todd DeBuff was handling everything. Bob Arum wasn't doing nothing with Floyd. It was Todd DeBuff. Floyd was talking with Todd DeBuff, his son-in-law, Bob Arum's son-in-law. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what y'all have to understand. And Floyd still said at the end of that, he said it was bad business that they did. You know, because they tried to defame his name. They really tried to put mud on Floyd. You know, they had ESPN do some nasty domestic violence stuff on him, on all kinds of dirt they tried to throw up on Floyd. The fight game with Jim Lampley was just you know, tarnishing his name and just trying to drag his name into the mud. It was bad business. All just to do with Pacquiao fight. They was trying to dirty his name as much as possible because they knew he was going to whoop Pacquiao ass. But anyway, let's go back to what we were saying. So at the end of the day, Floyd didn't get the Pacquiao fight. He couldn't land the Pacquiao fight in 2010. He just couldn't. They couldn't get it done. And as such as that, we got this ducking thing that started happening. Now really people really started talking, and Bob Arum kept on going on things and saying, oh, he's ducking Pacquiao, he's ducking Pacquiao. You know what I mean? And it's sad because, honestly speaking, Floyd never cherry-picked nobody. You look at Floyd's record, it's spotless. You look at Floyd, yes, they were very particular about who they faced. They would look at, you know, we look at this opponent and we think this opponent is, yes, of course. But with respect to cherry-picking, who did he cherry-pick, man? So after that, Pacquiao negotiations fell through. Floyd ended up facing Shane Mosley because Shane Mosley was supposed to face Andre Berto. That fell through. So Floyd ended up facing Shane Mosley. Okay? But Shane Mosley was the #1 welterweight in the world. Like, people forget, this is the guy that destroyed Antonio Margarito the fight before. Alright? In 2009. Alright? He faced Floyd May of 2010. So it was about a year he had off. Okay? They say Shane Mosley was old. Well, of course he's old. But he didn't get any younger when he faced Pacquiao. But the difference is, Shane Mosley that Floyd fought was actually a world champion. He had peaked again, and he became the #1 welterweight in the world. He beat Antonio Margarito, who was the best welterweight in the world, because he cheated and he beat Miguel Cotto, right? Who should have been the #1 welterweight in the world. Cotto should have been the #1 welterweight in the world. And Cotto had beaten Mosley, if I'm not mistaken. He beat Mosley before that. So Cotto should have been the #1 welterweight in the world. And if Cotto didn't get beat by Antonio Margarito, or he didn't get cheated by Antonio Margarito, Cotto probably would have been the #1 welterweight in the world. Floyd probably would have faced Cotto instead. But he ended up facing Cotto 2 years after. But he faced Shane Mosley, right? Now, Shane Mosley showed us he's Shane Mosley, right? Hurt Floyd twice. I mean, in round 2, he really hurt him. Floyd recouped pretty fast, and he was pretty smart in doing it, but he hurt Floyd. Hurt him bad. But Floyd recouped from it really, really quickly, and before the round was over, Floyd was landing shots to Mosley's body, staying close. So what do you do when you get hurt as a fighter? Guys teeing off on you, like Mosley. Mosley used to throw looping, arcing shots, right? Kind of like Sugar Ray Robinson. So Mosley, he put all that crank into the shot. Right? Arcing shots. But the thing about it is that if you throwing all those arcing shots, Floyd, okay, so I'm gonna give you all a little secret about Floyd, right? If you look at most knockouts that people don't see, most of the knockouts come because guys are throwing short, chopping shots. Think about what I'm saying. Think about Terry Norris versus John Mugabe. Think about Julian Jackson versus that southpaw from Harold Graham. Go watch that fight. Harold Graham versus Julian Jackson. How he counterpunched him. Right? Short chopping. It was a short chopping right hook. Right? So Harold Graham, he's a southpaw, like me. Harrigan was throwing a double right hand. So he came with one right hand, he came with a second right hand, and he was about to throw a left hook. Okay? He was about to throw a left hook. And Julian Jackson blocked the first right hand. And he stepped back and he right hooked Harold Graham with a short chopping shot right here. Boom. And because he did that, Harold Graham got knocked out because he was leveraging to the hook. He was leveraging to his hook, right? And he got caught. Let me see. It was double left hand, and he was coming back for a left hand. So he's rocking back this way, and he rocked right into the right hook. And it just, he was out on impact, right? And so, my point being, if you look at boxing and the shots that really knock out people, they always short chopping shots. Bernard Hopkins versus Oscar De La Hoya. There's a short chopping shot to the liver. Put down Oscar. It's a quick shot. Boom. Okay? You think of Miguel Cotto versus Daniel Gill. Right? Short chopping left hook. Boom. Right? And you don't have to put a lot of force and a lot of weight, as David Benavidez will tell you. It's not about how hard you throw the shot, because the harder you try to throw the shot, the harder you try to, the more you will telegraph the shot, and then the other guy will be able to brace for it or see it. You want to just let it naturally flow. It's just a naturally flowing reaction, right? So, and usually guys get knocked out by counter punches. Guys walk into shots. Right? That's the best way. One punch knockouts generally happen because the guy run into the shot. He ran into the shot. Take, for instance, Chris Eubank Jr. versus Liam Williams that happened over the weekend past there. Right? Liam Williams kept on running into the jab. That's why he got knocked down. And the jab is a beautiful jab. So, all right? So this is what my boy would do. He's like this. Okay? So his guard is right here to protect his chin here, but yet he can come over the top with the right hand. Okay? And then he's got the jab swirling on you like this. Alright? So what he would do to Liam Williams, when Liam Williams, he's getting ready to charge in, right? He might stutter step and then charge in. What Chris Eubank Jr. would do is he would feint the jab and swivel it. Right? He feint like if he's going to throw the jab and then he swivel it. But really, why he's doing this action is because he wants to do like this and then turn it over. It's almost like a check hook. He's ready to check hook you. He's almost like he's going to check hook you. He's doing like this, like if he's going to throw a shot and then it's a check hook, right? But instead of a check hook, what he's really doing is he's swiveling the hand so if he can turn it over into this shot here. So the knuckles, you run right into the knuckles. Boom. Right? So, it's kind of something like what Terrence Crawford did to Kell Brook and run into the shot. So, I got to give, one thing I got to give Liam Williams for is he's got a hell of a chin. And he's tough because that would knock out some people. Because you running into a shot. You running into a jab. You running into a jab. And I've seen guys get knocked out cold running into jabs. Because Liam Williams, he leap in. And so, what I'm trying to tell you is counterpunching is the key to stopping people. Counterpunching is the key to setting up an opponent for a knockout shot. You know, it's not just trying to punch all the way through a target. Sometimes you want the target to run into you, and that helps the punch to go all the way through them. Because, and especially if it's a short chopping punch. Short chopping punches are the most dangerous punches, I think, in boxing. Even if you're throwing a long extended punch, let's say I'm throwing on a southpaw stance. Okay, I'm a southpaw. So let's say I'm going to throw a right hook, right? I'm a southpaw, so my right hand is here, right? I'm about to throw a right hook. I'm going to extend my hand, but I'm going to do a short hook at the end of it. So I come like this. Okay? Out here. Okay? So instead of hooking all the way out here, which makes no sense, I extend my hand and then I hook it on the end. That way you get the short torque behind the hook. Okay? The uppercut is the most underrated short power punch in boxing. An uppercut to the could take a guy out. But again, the problem with the uppercut is you kind of open up your body. So, like if I'm here, let's say I'm going to throw an uppercut here, I have to open up my body to throw it up the center here. Whereas if I am, let's say even if I'm here, I have to still lean off to the side to throw the uppercut up the center right here. So I'm still kind of open. I could get caught with a left hook or something. You know what I mean? Whereas if I'm spear jabbing, I slide off to the side. Spear jab is, I think, one of the best weapons out there. And I catch the guy with the spear jab. I catch you with the spear jab right here. You're really, your eyes are blinded. You're more blinded by a spear jab than you are by an uppercut. You see? So, I mean, I wish people knew more about the spear jab because you have to step off to the side to throw a spear jab. Whereas with an uppercut, you can stay where you are and throw an uppercut. You want to step off to the side with a spear jab. Beautiful. I love spear jabs, actually, and Floyd uses them a lot. Who else did I see using it? I think I saw Teofimo Lopez using spear jabs. Somebody else uses spear jab. I saw. I think I saw Shakur Stevenson using a spear jab as well. It's a very, very effective weapon. The weapon though that Chris Eubank Jr. was using was sort of like a hook into a jab. So you can jab, you can hook off a jab, but in this case, he's like throwing like if he's going to hook you, and then he straightens it up. He straightens up. It's really to turn the knuckles over, to generate enough force to turn the knuckles over so he could catch you. It's a beautiful punch. I mean, the way how Chris Eubank was just executing that jab was just beautiful. And it's a master class. I see a lot of other people talking about, oh, he's not as good as his father, oh, that wasn't so great, and they have no idea. But the point, anyway, I was making is that the point I was making, uppercuts are very dangerous if you're throwing them from the outside. You really have to be in close. They're very good weapons for popping your chin up and stuff. Generally, people don't get knocked out by uppercuts, but Mike Tyson used to throw a right hook to the body and then throw an uppercut. And it would stun his opponent, and then he'd take you out with a right hand or left hand, whatever. So Mike Tyson used to make it interesting. But getting back to what I was saying. So I'm taking really long to explain these things, but nonetheless, here we go. So trying to really backtrack from all of that to say that the boxing IQ, the boxing skill that's necessary to do certain things, Floyd had all that. So yeah, he with the Pacquiao fight didn't work out, so he ended up facing Shane Mosley. Was Shane Mosley old? Absolutely, he was old. Was he so old that he couldn't function? No, that's true. That's false. He could function. He just destroyed Antonio Margarito. He was 37. I think he was 37 or 38 when he faced Floyd, which is up in age. But this guy had longevity. Mosley, that was his last hurrah, though. Floyd beat the brakes off of him, and he never really ever became world champion anymore. I thought Sergio Mora beat him. Came back down, faced Manny Pacquiao, right? And we know how that fight went. Other than that, Floyd then went on to face Victor Ortiz. Victor Ortiz was coming off of his career highest performance ever. It was his biggest fight, and it's his biggest win ever in his history of fighting. So Victor Ortiz was able to beat Andre Berto, who at the time was the WBC champion and was just tearing through everybody. They call him Andre. They call him Andre the Beast Berto for a reason. And, he'd been winning his fights, and then they fought at a catchweight at 145, I think it was. And Victor Ortiz knocked down Andre Berto. No. First of all, Victor Ortiz always could crack. There ain't no ifs or buts about that. Against Marcos Maidana, he put Marcos Maidana down twice. Marcos Maidana put him down, I think it was 3 times or 2 times, something like that, and Ortiz called it a day. They called off the fight, but Marcos Maidana was a beast, but Ortiz was a beast. They both could punch. They both could punch. Okay, Ortiz. There's no if or buts. Ortiz can punch. Ortiz can up to this day. To this day, Ortiz can punch. Okay, but Ortiz, it was a great fight with Andre Berto, and they fought all the way to the end, and Ortiz got the decision win. Berto, they were supposed to rematch each other, and I think Berto showed up with some sort of PED in his system. They said. Um, but it turned out that it was a false positive. So, and it's too bad because he never really got to carry out the fight. And eventually, Berto fought Ortiz and knocked him out. But this was down the road. Anyway, so he beat Andre Berto. And everybody wanted to see Andre Berto versus Floyd Mayweather. That's what they wanted to see. And Mayweather tried to make the Pacquiao fight in 2011. It failed again. Because Mayweather wanted to face Pacquiao. He really wanted to face Pacquiao. That's the thing. That's the thing about Floyd Mayweather. He actually wanted that fight. He wanted to be pound for pound number one. He wanted to get back his spot. So he wanted to face Pacquiao. This is what a lot of people don't understand. He wanted to face Pacquiao. Pacquiao wasn't as interested in facing him as he wanted to face Pacquiao. That's why he went on a rant sometime and called him a midget and tell him get rice and stuff. And he was just going off. And I was like, wow. He got real racist and stuff, and he lost his cool because he was like he couldn't get this fight. But it is what it is. I mean, he tried. He ended up facing Victor Ortiz. Now, who was better than Victor Ortiz at the time? Who was hotter than Victor Ortiz? These were the guys. These were the players at the time, right? So Pacquiao beaten Clottey. I think he went up to face Margarito in 2011 or something like that. In the meantime, in the welterweight division, we were left with Cotto. No, Cotto wasn't in the welterweight division. We were left with who was left on the landscape in the welterweight division. We had Carlos Quintana. I think Carlos Quintana was a champion at the time. Who else was out there? There was some European fighter who was a champion at the time. So that was about it. And then it was Victor Ortiz. So who Floyd was supposed to face? If he couldn't face Pacquiao, which is who he really wanted to face, then the only thing out there that was worth the while was Victor Ortiz. Carlos Quintana had been beaten a number of times, and he didn't look so great in his fight or whatever it was. So Floyd ended up facing Victor Ortiz. So Victor Ortiz, he ended up, getting knocked out because of the incident that happened. The fight ended in a way which was sort of anticlimactic because Floyd was beating Victor Ortiz's tail. Victor Ortiz had butted him. I thought the fight would have continued and Floyd would have put a beating on him, and instead Floyd just knocked him out because his hands was down. So it kind of was anticlimactic and sudden, but it is what it is. But again, who was better than Victor Ortiz out there? And then he tried to have the fight again in 2012 with Manny Pacquiao. All right, he tried. All right, he offered the money and all of this, and Pacquiao again and his team. Pacquiao still pound for pound number one in the world. Didn't care, right? Don't need you, bro. I'm pound for pound number one in the world. I don't need you. And so Pacquiao was trying to get an opponent. Mayweather was trying to get an opponent. Pacquiao was trying to get Miguel Cotto, but the way I went, Pacquiao wanted Cotto to come down to welterweight to face him, or at a catch weight of 150, and Cotto was not. Nope, 154 or no deal. So Floyd ended up offering Cotto. Floyd went after Cotto and said, you know what, Cotto, because Cotto was a free agent at the time. Floyd was like to Cotto, he was like, hey man, I'm gonna face you at 154. Cotto was like, fine. So Cotto ended up facing Floyd at 154, and that's how. So Floyd always wanted to face Cotto, but Cotto was with Top Rank, and Top Rank didn't want Floyd to face Cotto when they were at 140. So Floyd never faced Cotto at 140. So it ended up that uh, Cotto left Top Rank and was free agent, and they were doing a contract by contractual basis now. So Cotto was free. So Cotto freed himself from that contract, went to cross by Floyd, and he faced Floyd instead. Cotto at the time was the number one super welterweight in the world, which is why Manny Pacquiao wanted to face Cotto again. Um, uh, Cotto had Avengers lost to Antonio Margarito, and he also beat Ricardo Mayorga and Yuri Foreman, who was undefeated at the time, and he beat Yuri Foreman. But Yuri Foreman had hurt his leg in the fight, and he still fought on. The referee allowed him to fight on. But Cotto was the best guy out there. He was a pay-per-view star and everything. So Floyd ended up facing Miguel Cotto, and I would say the toughest fight of Floyd's career was against Miguel Cotto. I still maintain that. I know Floyd says Emmanuel Burton. He would know better because, at the time he'd come out of retirement and underestimated Emmanuel Burton, didn't know his skills and all that, and had to fight all the way to the end. So I get where he's coming from mentally, but I thought that Floyd was prepared for Cotto and everything, and Cotto gave Floyd. I mean, that was a tough ass fight. Floyd got bloodied and everything. Cotto was smart. Made Floyd run into some of his jabs and stuff. It was a good fight. And I think to date, nobody from Castillo to Oscar to Maidana, all them guys, I don't think they gave Floyd as much problems as Cotto did. I think Cotto is the guy that gave Floyd the most problems. I think that his IQ was up there because Cotto took I think 5 straight rounds of the later rounds. And coming up to round 12 is where Floyd took the fight. Otherwise, this fight was going to be a draw. And that's the closest I think I've ever seen Floyd to getting beaten by anybody. I think Miguel Cotto is the best, the guy that gave Floyd the toughest fight. And it was grueling. And Floyd will tell you to this day that Miguel Cotto was the strongest fighter he's ever faced. Cotto was something else. And kudos to Cotto. Even though he lost in that fight, I thought he was that close. He was that close to making it a draw. And that's the most competitive fight I've seen with Floyd. I've seen all the fights of Floyd, from Jesus Chavez to Chop Chop Corley. Those were all exciting fights, but Floyd was dominating those other guys. When it comes to Cotto, it's hard to dominate Cotto because Cotto can take a shot. And he just turn around and just keep on coming at you. You know what I'm saying? Cotto, a machine. It's very imposing. And then Cotto was taking Floyd and slamming him on the ground and pushing him into the ropes and shit. Cotto's physically strong. So, when I saw Cotto versus Canelo, Canelo was hitting Cotto with some money punches. And Cotto was going nowhere. I was like, God damn. Cotto can take a punch, man. That's why I said I couldn't understand how, people saying that Manny Pacquiao stopped Cotto. I just can't see it. I saw Margarito hitting Cotto with literally bricks. There were bricks in Margarito's hands. Literally, plaster of Paris is cement. He's hitting Cotto. Cotto's head is swollen. And Cotto's still fighting. Cotto's still fighting him back. Dude, y'all even understand how tough this dude is. Cotto was tough. He tough and he's strong. He can take a punch. I saw Zab Judah hit him with a money punch up the center, bust Cotto's mouth up, split his lip and shit. And Cotto still kept coming. Cotto's a beast. That's what impressed me about Cotto. Miguel Cotto is a dude. He's strong, man. He real strong. And Floyd's right. That's like the strongest guy I've ever seen Floyd face. I mean, Canelo's strong too. All right, you hit Canelo, you just piss Canelo off. Like Canelo can take a punch, okay? But I mean, Cotto, man, jeez. Canelo was fighting Cotto, and not for 1 minute. I mean, he did buckle Cotto once or twice, but still. I mean, Canelo much bigger than Cotto, and Cotto was taking them punches. I was like, God damn. You know. But anyways, man. So yeah, Floyd fought Miga Cotto, and he got the victory over Miga Cotto. But I think that's the closest fight Floyd ever had. I don't even think Marcos Maidana was as close as Cotto. And Floyd, yeah, he buckled Cotto in the 12th. But Cotto just kept on pressing on him. It was like right up on him. Like Cotto was real up on Floyd after that. If you ever look, he tried to space himself out with his hands, Floyd, and Cotto just closed the distance on him. Like it was more intense. I was like, God damn! It's like he pissed off Cotto or something, you know. So Miga Cotto, man, he a beast. He a beast. I mean, people say that this person or that person would stop Cotto. I don't know about that. If Canelo couldn't stop Cotto, it's hard to stop Cotto. I mean, you have to cheat. You have to have bricks in your hands like Antonio Margarito has to stop Cotto. And yeah, Pacquiao stopped Cotto, but I think a full-fledged Cotto, Pacquiao ain't stopping. He might beat him, but he ain't stopping him. Because Pacquiao was landing some nice combinations on Cotto. So, and he's spinning out the way. But Cotto was landing some shots on Pacquiao. I'm telling you, man, a full-fledged Cotto, I don't even know if Pacquiao make it out. Cotto might stop a Pacquiao if he's full-fledged. You have to weaken Cotto. You have to weaken Cotto to beat him. Because, I mean, Cotto a beast, man. He's a beast. I'm a big Cotto fan. Big Cotto fan. But I just thought that that wasn't a cherry pick either. Did Floyd know about Cotto's history? Yeah. But Floyd was right. You had to cheat Cotto to beat him. You had to weaken Cotto to beat him. Right? They weakened Cotto to beat him. Pacquiao had to weaken Cotto to beat him. And Antonio Margarito had to cheat to beat Cotto. And even then Cotto kept on fighting. Right? Cotto just kept on fighting. Because Cotto's like that. Cotto's a beast. Right? Nobody's ever knocked out Cotto. Have you noticed that? Nobody's ever knocked out Cotto. They had to stop the fight. The referee stopped the fight. But nobody's ever knocked out Cotto. That's how strong Cotto is. Cotto's a really, really strong dude. So I just think that, Hall of Famer, of course, he's in the Boxing Hall of Fame. The Cotto that faced Pacquiao, I thought, was a weakened Cotto. And Cotto who faced Floyd Mayweather, man, that dude is a beast. He can get Floyd's timing early on. He couldn't get his timing on it, so Floyd won more of the earlier rounds. But as he went to the middle to late rounds, he got his timing and he started doing all kinds of things, man. And he busted up Floyd's face, and Floyd ran into a jab. Floyd was trying to walk him down at a certain point. And Cotto would say, "Oh, play ball," and he started boxing on the back foot now. So the whole thing shifted, the dynamic shifted. But Cotto was getting better at Floyd when Floyd was walking him down. When Cotto was actually pushing Floyd back, Floyd had the advantage. But when Floyd was pushing back Cotto had the advantage. And that's the trick with Floyd. Cotto kind of figured out how to beat Floyd. You got to get Floyd coming to you. You have to make him come to you so that you can catch him with some shots. That's the only way you're going to catch Floyd with shots. You're not going to catch Floyd with shots if you're just chasing him down. Floyd's not that kind of fighter. That's Floyd's game. You chase him down, that's good for him. You even look, Zab Judah caught Floyd with the shot that made Floyd's hand touch the canvas because Floyd was chasing him down. Floyd was trying to land a shot, a straight right to the body, and that's how Zab was able to counter him. Like I said before, counterpunching is everything in boxing. Y'all learn something, all right? In boxing, what you really want to do is counter a dude. Hold on a second. Yeah, Ken. Yeah. That's him over there. All right. Thanks. Yeah. So the trick is to run a guy into a shot. That's why boxing off the back foot, Sugar Ray Leonard did it. Sugar Ray Robinson did it. All the great fighters. Benny Leonard did it. You want to be able to box a guy off the back foot. So you want to run him into something. You understand what I'm saying? You want to run him into something. So I think that's the key to everything, in boxing. I'm gonna do 2 or 3 different things, but anyway. So when you look at Mayweather versus Miguel Cotto. I mean, come on, man. Come on. People trash talk and say things, but I mean, there's no cherry pick there. Again, this is not what Floyd wanted. This is not the guy Floyd wanted. The guy Floyd wanted was Pacquiao, right? So he faced Victor Ortiz, he faced Shane Mosley, he faced Miguel Cotto, but the guy he was really running after was Pacquiao, all right? But the next best thing was Shane Mosley at the time. The next best thing was Victor Ortiz at the time, and the next best thing at the time was Miguel Cotto. Now there were some other contenders in the rankings. The other one was Sergio Martinez. So Floyd said it was between Sergio Martinez and Miguel Cotto. Sergio Martinez was at middleweight at the time. He was middleweight champion, but Floyd never went up to middleweight to face anybody, because I mean the man went through 5 divisions, right? So the question was, will Sergio Martinez come down to 154? And Sergio Martinez was like, hell yeah, I'll come down to 154. But then Cotto, which was a much bigger draw than Sergio Martinez and had a belt, was like, hell, man, hey, I'm out here. You know what I mean? So Floyd they had a proposition to Sergio Martinez and to Miguel Cotto, and Cotto won out. You know, but Floyd versus Sergio Martinez would have been a fight too. I would have loved to see that at 154. Martinez come down, but I feel like Sergio Martinez. You know, he was a big middleweight. I feel like, you know, how he was complaining about losing the weight against Miguel Cotto when Cotto decided to face him at 159. I think, you know, he had probably acclimatized to middleweight by then, but I'm just saying that, you know, Sergio Martinez may talk about going down to 154, but then next thing he get drained or something, and then the excuse is, oh, Sergio Martinez wasn't at his proper weight. Whereas with Miguel Cotto, that was his proper weight, 154. There was no excuses. You know, the only excuse people have is, well, the damage he took from Margarito. Well, if the damage is what he took from Margarito, then that disclaims what Pacquiao did with him, seeing that he was weight drained on top of that. So if you're really going to go there, you really going to go there? I mean, come on, man. It had nothing to do with that. Right? Miguel Cotto fought Floyd Mayweather like he had no damage. The only thing I got to say, though, is that I feel like Miguel Cotto would have been even more intense had he not lost to Antonio Margarito. Had he not so much lost, but had Antonio Margarito not put this stuff in his gloves, I think he'd been fresher, because I think he lost a lot of years off of his boxing career with that Antonio Margarito fight, which should never have happened like that. So that's what I gotta say. But he did avenge Antonio Margarito. So mentally, he was going in very strong, no demons, nothing like that when he faced Floyd Mayweather. Whereas with Pacquiao, that demon was still hanging on in the background of his mind, I'm sure. He didn't want to give Margarito a paycheck, by the way. He was like, I ain't fighting that dude. That dude cheated. So anyway, I wanna talk a little bit more about Mayweather. So after the Antonio Margarito fight, of course, he went to prison, came back out of prison. Robert Guerrero was the dude that made the most noise, so Floyd ended up facing Robert Guerrero because he again beat Andre Berto. But out there was the IBF World Champion, which was Devin Alexander, which Floyd wanted to face. And when he put forward that he wanted to face Devin Alexander, people protested that, so he ended up facing Robert Guerrero, who everybody wanted him to face because he had beaten Andre Berto, who had the style like him. It is what it is. Berto was on the rise, and then he got beat by Robert Guerrero, and then he got beat by Soto Carras. Andre Berto fought his butt off against Soto Carras. It is what it is. He had a rotator cuff injury as well. But yeah, so he fought Robert Guerrero. Robert Guerrero is a 2-time world champion. You know, at low weight classes, he was going through everybody. So he was on a tear. He was the number 3 welterweight in the world. So that's why Robert Guerrero got the shot at Floyd Mayweather. He was a mandatory as well. Floyd was coming out of prison. So they just want to make sure Floyd was in shape, whatever. So he ended up facing him. And then he went on to face Canelo Alvarez. All right? So like I said before, who was on the horizon with Canelo Alvarez at the time? Canelo Alvarez was the unified WBA, WBC champion. The other guy that was out there, I believe, at the time was either K9 Bundridge or it was Carlos Molina. You guys go look it up. Either K9 Bundridge or Carlos Molina. I'm not sure which one it was. Alright? I think it was K9 Bundress. K9 Bundress had just beaten. He had just beaten. Um, uh, the former unified. Um, it'll come to me. Corey Spinks, right? He had just beaten Corey Spinks, I think. So I believe Corey Spinks was in the equation for a little bit. Paul Williams was up in there. I think Paul Williams. Either Paul. No, I think. Let me think about it. This is what 2013. No, Paul Williams. Paul Williams was out of the equation because in 2012 he got in a motorcycle accident. Paul Williams was supposed to face Canelo Alvarez. He ended up getting in a motorcycle accident, which sucks because he was about to get a nice big payday facing Canelo. Um, so he was out the equation. But he was doing well too. He was calling out Floyd. Then he got knocked out by Sergio Martinez. He was on 154 pounder. So he fought at middleweight I think once or twice. So he was at 154. He was still calling out Floyd in the background. But then every time he called out Floyd, something bad would happen to him. So he called out Floyd again against Sergio Martinez. Sergio Martinez knocked him out. This was the second fight. He had beaten Sergio Martinez before. And then, so it was Canelo. It was the IBF champion, I believe, was either K9 Bundress or Carlos Molina. I can't remember which one it was. And this was 2013. I believe it was Carlos Molina. I think K9 Bundress had been beaten by Ishe Smith, and Ishe Smith was beaten by Carlos Molina, I believe it was. So Ishe Smith, of course, is a fighter something like Floyd Mayweather. Now K9 Bundress, he always throw jabs at Floyd. K9 Bundress said Floyd ducked him and stuff like that. So K9 Bundress talk about that, how not ducked him, but that Floyd wasn't going to have no fight with him. But the truth be told, you got beat by Ishe Smith, K9 Bundress. No disrespect to you, brother. You were a champion. You were one of the oldest 154-pound champions in the world. I got respect for you. Probably going to go into the Boxing Hall of Fame as well. But just off of that. But K9 Bundress, he in the Guinness Books of Record, by the way. K9 Bundress, man, short dude, about 5'6", but he got 72-inch reach. So he's kind of like Sam Langford in that respect. Good fighter, good fighter. But like I said, Ishe Smith fights something like Floyd. He's a bigger version of him. And Ishe Smith beat your ass. So why do I think that Floyd wouldn't beat your ass? Like, I'm just saying, no disrespect to K9 Bundress. I know you throw little jabs at Floyd, but I mean, everybody got to eat. So I ain't mad at you for if you wanted to call him out or whatever, and you wanted to get a fight with him. I mean, why not? But like you wasn't on the highest stakes of the table, and like you wasn't on the menu. You wasn't like the big bucks kind of dude. But other than that, I understand. Like I have respect for K9 Bundress. I think he was around with Canelo time. Canelo was the dude, though. I don't think it was him. I think it was Carlos Molina. So it was Carlos Molina. I believe it was Canelo Alvarez. And I don't know who the WBO champion was at the time. I don't know who the WBO champion was at the time. But Floyd ended up facing the #1 welterweight in the world at the time, which was Canelo. I think, who I think was the WBO champion? It was a European dude. I forgot what his name is right now. But it was a European dude, I think. So tell me, how is this a cherry pick? This is what was in the super welterweight division. So we had, I believe it was Carlos Molina, was a good fighter. You had Canelo Alvarez. You had the European dude. And then you had, at welterweight at the time, in 2013, you had, who did you have? I believe you still had Devin Alexander. Devin Alexander was still around there. Floyd was the WBC world champion. The WBA world champion at the time was Marcos Maidana after he beat Adrian Broner. So Adrian Broner was the WBA champion. Paulie Malignaggi was the WBA champion. Then Adrian Broner beat Paulie Malignaggi, I think, in 2013. Took on Marcos Maidana at the end of the year, and Marcos Maidana became the WBA world champion. Floyd was the WBC. The IBF was Devin Alexander. And the WBO, I believe the WBO at the time was Timothy Bradley. because Timothy Bradley beat Manny Pacquiao in 2012. So you had Timothy Bradley, Devin Alexander, you had um, either Adrian Broner or Paulie Malignaggi, then became Marcos Maidana, and then you had Floyd. So these were the guys at the welterweight division. You had Devin Alexander, Timothy Bradley, and you had Mark. I can't. At the end of the year it was Marcos Maidana, but before that, because the fight was in December, but before that I think it was Adrian Broner, right? So, because Adrian Broner beat Paulie Malignaggi. It was Paulie Malignaggi in the beginning of the year. Middle of the year was Adrian Broner. End of the year was Marcos Maidana. It changed hands 3 times. Floyd was the WBC champion. Floyd ended up facing Canelo Alvarez. Now let's just look. Let's put this in perspective. And Canelo's coming off the Astor Trout fight, right? And everybody at the time was like, "Oh shit, Canelo gonna beat his ass," right? Because everybody was thinking Canelo too big for him, whatever. People were talking about Canelo beating Floyd since 2012. Canelo actually called him out in 2011. So here's what's up. Let's go there. Who was the best pick out of all of them guys? We had Devin Alexander. We had Paulie Malignaggi or Adrian Broner, or it was Paulie Malignaggi or Adrian Broner. Yeah. No. It was just Paulie Malignaggi and Adrian Broner because he fought Canelo at September of that year. All right? It was Paulie Malignaggi or Adrian Broner. It wasn't Marcos Maidana. Then there was the IBF champion was Devin Alexander, like I said before. The WBO champion was Timothy Bradley. Right? Hold on, let me think. Yes. It was Timothy Bradley. Right? Manny Pacquiao came back at the end of the year and he fought Brandon Rios. Manny Pacquiao was out of the equation. So you had Timothy Bradley. You had Devin Alexander. You had Adrian Broner. You had Carlos Molina, I believe it was. Either Carlos Molina or Ishe Smith. It's either Ishe Smith or Carlos Molina. It wasn't Kenan Bondrich. Alright? You had the European dude and you had Canelo Alvarez. Now you tell me who the best guy to face in all of them guys. Hands down, Canelo Alvarez. Alright? Hands down, Canelo Alvarez. In the welterweight division, it would have been Timothy Bradley. Right? But if you're talking overall, it's super welterweight and welterweight, Canelo so far surpasses Timothy Bradley. And would have been the biggest fight out there anyway. Right? And it makes sense that it would be the biggest fight out there because you're talking about a welterweight fighting a super welterweight, right? Or junior middleweight. And this junior middleweight been tearing everybody up. This junior middleweight is undefeated, right? And this junior middleweight has been fighting, top tier guys. So why not Canelo Alvarez? So how's Canelo Alvarez a cherry pick? Is this rocket science? What is Canelo Alvarez today? What is Timothy Bradley today? Okay, so this is the end of the story right there. So, Floyd ended up facing Canelo Alvarez, all right, in 2013. 2014, we talked about Marcos Maidana beat Adrian Broner. Out there, it was Amir Khan or Marcos Maidana. Now, there were some other champions out there, right? Who was the other champions? All right, so Floyd Mayweather, he had beaten Victor Ortiz, and then he had been the WBC welterweight world champion. But other than that, the WBA world champion was Marcos Maidana. The IBF world champion at the time, I believe it still was Devin Alexander. I'm trying to remember when did Sean Porter beat. So I believe Sean Porter beat Devin Alexander sometime in 2014, but it wasn't at this time. Timothy Bradley faced Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao ended up beating Timothy Bradley just before Floyd Mayweather faced Marcos Maidana the first time. So the guys anyway that was out there was Marcos Maidana. We had Erislandy Lara. We had Timothy Bradley. We had Timothy Bradley the first time around. So we had Timothy Bradley. We had it could have been Sean Porter. It could have been Devin Alexander. I believe Sean Porter faced him a little bit later on. Second fight, I think Sean Porter was there. So these were the guys. It was Erislandy Lara, Marcos Maidana, Amir Khan, Timothy Bradley, I say? Uh, I'm not too sure who the IBF champion was at super welterweight, and I'm not sure who the WBO champion was. Demetrius Andrews could have won the WBO title at that time. I'm not too sure. And I'm not too sure who the IBF champion was. I think it was Carlos Molina at the time. It was Carlos Molina. So Carlos Molina was definitely the champ at that time. So anyway, you got Carlos Molina, you got Devin Alexander. No, sorry, my bad. You got Carlos Molina, maybe Sean Porter or Devin Alexander. I'm not too sure. The WBO champion was Timothy Brad, but changed hands to Manny Pacquiao. You had the WBA champion was Marcus Maidana. You had Amir Khan who was sitting on the sidelines. He was supposed to face Devin Alexander, but he did not. See, Amir Khan was supposed to face Devin Alexander instead of Sean Porter. Sean Porter ended up facing Devin Alexander at the end of the year, and Sean Porter won. But Devin Alexander should have faced Amir Khan. Amir Khan sat on his hunches instead of facing a fighter, Devin Alexander, and he didn't put up a performance. Marcus Maidana put up a great performance. So this is why Floyd ended up facing Marcus Maidana. Most people wanted Marcus Maidana to face Floyd anyway, right? They didn't want Amir Khan. It was like, Amir Khan, come on, man. Chinny Amir Khan, Floyd would knock out Amir Khan. Oh, Floyd beat Amir. They didn't really. So anyway, you ended up with Marcus Maidana versus Floyd Mayweather, which again was the best possible thing. I would have loved to see Floyd versus Erislandy Lara, but Erislandy Lara called it out after Marcus Maidana was picked by Floyd. After they already got the contract signed, Erislandy Lara started chirping, and I was like, stupid. I was like, dude, you should. Where were you when we was trying to get an opponent? Anyways, Marcus Maidana was the biggest thing out there that would have given the biggest fight, and he was the most appropriate person to face. And that's just that. Whether you want to say Floyd picked his opponents or not, that's what it was. Did he size up Marcus Maidana? A long time ago. Okay? Did he underestimate Marcus Maidana? Hell yes. He had a hell of a first fight with Marcus Maidana because of that. But it was a good fight. Alright, let's go to the next opponent, which was Manny Pacquiao. So after all those years, after 5 years, when he failed to negotiate, he finally landed a fight with Manny Pacquiao, right? Who was better than Manny Pacquiao out there? Manny Pacquiao was pound for pound number 3, behind Andre Ward. So obviously nobody else was better than Manny Pacquiao at that time. Keith Thurman was trying to get the fight with Floyd. He was trying, again, Keith Thurman was doing what he's supposed to do. He tried to move up the ranks. He's trying to get, he's hungry. He's trying to get, a title, right? He's trying to establish himself. And of course he's going to call out Floyd Mayweather. Again, I don't fault Keith Thurman for saying that. Even him saying that Floyd ducked him, which is funny. Floyd didn't duck Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman, what do you got to bring to the table, bro? What do you got to bring to the table? What do you got to bring to the table? You got everything to gain, nothing to lose. Floyd got everything to lose, nothing to gain. It beats Keith Thurman. Oh, yeah, Keith Thurman was just a guy on the rise. Right? And Keith Thurman comes and gets hurt by Louis Collazo and be like, oh, man, if Floyd was hitting my body shot. Even the switch hitter guy that Keith Thurman had beat said that Keith Thurman wasn't ready for Floyd. Now, when opponents are telling you that you ain't ready for Floyd, I mean, he was never ready for Floyd. He never was ready for Floyd. And no disrespect to Keith Thurman. I know he wanted a shot. You want to get something to eat as well, and you want to get paid. But to be fair to Keith Thurman, bro, you wasn't ready for that. You wasn't ready for that work. You just wasn't. Now, it would have been a good experience for you, but you would have been, it probably looked worse than Canelo fight because you would be swinging wild all over the place, missing shots and getting sniped up, chopped up like a chopping block. It made no sense. And I always felt that Floyd was going after the big money fights anyway. He wanted the biggest possible fight. So he was supposed to face Keith Thurman and get a ridiculously small fraction of what he got against Manny Pacquiao. Are you y'all tripping, man? I mean, he ducked Keith Thurman. Duck Keith Thurman to face Manny Pacquiao? Are you serious? So no, he didn't. And he didn't cherry pick Manny Pacquiao. He waited so many years. This guy wasn't waiting for nothing. Floyd was trying to make the fight with Pacquiao. Pacquiao, you know when Pacquiao wanted Floyd? After he got dethroned off of being pound for pound number 1. After he lost to Timothy Bradley, now he wanted the Floyd fight. And he was talking about, oh, I want to get Floyd now. I really want to get Floyd. Of course you want to get Floyd. You're not a pound for pound number one no more. You get thrown off your throne. Floyd pound for pound number one. Of course you're going to be shooting for the top dog now. That's when Pacquiao decided his tune changed, and he really was interested in Floyd then. And that's why this fight actually happened in the end, because Michael Kons hooked up with Floyd, because Bob Arum wasn't going to make that fight happen. Bob Arum was going to, hell in high water, he wanted to keep his word. Because he still had that grudge against Floyd for not facing Margarito. So Bob Arum was never going to let that fight happen. Alright, that's the truth. I'm not lying to you. Am I lying to you? Bob Arum didn't want that fight to happen. Okay, he wanted Floyd's legacy to be without Pacquiao, and people to say, oh, he never fought Pacquiao. Bob Arum, down to the end, was trying to sabotage that fight. Okay, but the fight ended up happening, and Floyd beat Pacquiao easy, like he said he was going to do. He said it many, many years before. I think he said it in 2011 or something, 2012, to Stephen A. Smith, when they was in the car and he was doing the interview, and he was like, Pacquiao is a hype job that the media put up to face me, and I'm going to beat him easy. He said that. That was in 2012. 2015, he beat him easy, right? And it wasn't no disrespect to Manny Pacquiao. It's not Manny Pacquiao was a hype job. I mean, it's that Manny Pacquiao is legit. We know this from the Keith Thurman fight. He legit. The thing about it was they had hyped up Manny Pacquiao as this guy that Floyd was ducking and was afraid of, when Floyd was never afraid of him. Floyd was the guy trying to get the fight with him. Floyd was trying to get the fight with Manny Pacquiao. He finally got the fight with Manny Pacquiao in 2015. Did Floyd suspect Pacquiao of having used PEDs? Yes, that's what he felt. And he felt like Pacquiao came off the PED somewhere in 2012. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what he suspected. I'm just talking from his perspective. That's what he suspected, but that doesn't mean that it was so. It doesn't mean that Manny Pacquiao was on PEDs. But ultimately, in the end, he faced Manny Pacquiao. And at this time, Pacquiao had a rich legacy behind him. So it's actually better that he faced Manny Pacquiao in 2015 than if he had beat him in 2010. And then Pacquiao would have been like a fly-by-night kind of thing. He was this great star, blow up, and then Floyd beat him, and then it was like, oh, Pacquiao ain't nothing. That's what they do to every single one of them. Even Canelo, they're like, oh, Canelo ain't nothing. Floyd beat Canelo. That means Sugar Ray Robinson could beat Canelo, and Sugar Ray Leonard could beat Canelo. No, it doesn't mean that. It don't mean that. Floyd will make a fight look easy, but it ain't an easy fight. Okay? Because Floyd do certain things that none of them guys, Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, they never be able to do, because they never control the pace of the fight like that. They control with jabs, but Floyd used feints. He used change up his timing. He changed up his movement. He changed up how he throw a jab. He changed up how he throw his lead right hand. Because Floyd's an ambush fighter. Them guys wasn't ambush fighters. Alright? That's why he hit Victor Ortiz when his hands was down, because he's an ambush fighter. You know who's kind of like Floyd? Guillermo Rigondeaux. Guillermo Rigondeaux is an ambush fighter. He will hit you when you least expect it. That's what Floyd keep on telling people. He told people that I forgot what the name of the program was with Smitty. Smitty in this corner. In this corner, he told Smitty, man, I don't fight a guy when he's expecting me to fight him. I fight a guy when he's off guard. When the guy's not expecting it, that's when I come in and I do my thing. Right? Floyd tell you that. He's an ambush fighter. Roy Jones Jr., ambush fighter. Manny Pacquiao, ambush fighter. These guys they setting you up. They setting you up. They setting a trap. They always trap setting. Alright? You have to be always on your toes with them guys. Because when you blink, that's when Pacquiao attack you. Right? So, it's the same thing with Manny Pacquiao versus Mayweather. There's two ambush fighters. That's why the fight played out exactly like how an ambush fight would be. These guys not looking to go straight up and down with each other. No. They're looking for the advantage. To catch you with a counter or a shot that you don't expect. And Pacquiao was very clever with that. But Floyd understood what he was doing. And Floyd understood the range he had to be at to actually see Pacquiao with his little tricks and stuff that he do. Because if Floyd was to fight Pacquiao at mid-range, Pacquiao would beat him. Pacquiao would beat him in the pocket, or he would take a lot of damage. He might win out in the exchanges, but he would take a lot of damage. He would take a lot of shots. So Floyd kept him at bay so he could see him really good, and so he could see all the shots that's coming at him. You see, so Floyd fought Pacquiao using his reach advantage, because he was looking for the. Again, you don't want to work hard. You want to work smart. He was looking for the simplest way to beat the opponent and make it look easy. Nobody else has made a Pacquiao fight look easy like that. Everybody else is taking punishment. Even my boy, Dennis Ugas, you saw his eyes was puffy and his eyes was closed up and his nose was bloodied at the end of that fight. Floyd had a little bumpy lip, but that was about it. I mean, it was real clean what Floyd did. Ugas engaged a lot more. And so he got. I mean, when Pacquiao come countering you, man, he do damage. He do serious damage. He's a small dude, but he damaged you, man. So Shane Mosley didn't know what to make of him. So he was on the back foot, and he was very defensive. He wasn't even throwing much punches. But Floyd was countering him and stuff from a certain range, and that's the key. Floyd understood the range to deal with Pacquiao. And Paulie Malignaggi outlines it perfectly. He says range was everything in this fight. So a guy like Sugar Ray Leonard, I think Sugar Ray Leonard would be able to, because Sugar Ray Leonard also fought on the outside. He would have a good look at you. I think Sugar Ray Leonard would, but he would have a harder time with Pacquiao, because Pacquiao, again, it's the timing, his footwork, his foot speed, how he come in and out. That if you let Pacquiao get on a roll, it's over. Forget about it. He gonna win. You have to shut him down early. And Floyd shut him down early. And he never really got that momentum. Pacquiao, every time he, like round 4, he got momentum. Floyd would take it back in round 5. You know what I'm saying? Floyd was very tactical in how he was dealing with Pacquiao. And that's how he shut him down. He shut Pacquiao down, actually. So, a guy like Sugar Ray Leonard, he might take him a little while to get used to Pacquiao. And by that time, Pacquiao might take over the fight. That's the problem with Pacquiao. Pacquiao's like Aaron Pryor in the respect that you give him some momentum, it's over. Forget about it. The fight's over. Like Keith Thurman could never pull back the fight against Pacquiao. When Pacquiao knocked him down in round 1, Keith Thurman was constantly behind trying to get the momentum back. And when he finally got the momentum back in round 10, Pacquiao caught him with a body shot and took back the momentum. Because Pacquiao was so far ahead. That's the thing with Pacquiao. Pacquiao is he's an incredible fighter, man. He's an incredible fighter. But you have to know how to control him. And Dennis Ugas did a great job of controlling him. He also took a lot of punishment, but in the process, he was able to control him. And he was using that jab so beautifully, and he was using those right hands so beautifully. He was using the jab and the right hand very beautifully. Floyd, there are 2 fighters I haven't seen use jab and right hand so well. Floyd and Dennis Ugas. It was beautiful how he would jab him. He would catch him off the short little hook that Pacquiao tried to throw sometimes, the right hook. He would jab over the hook. It's just beautiful how Dennis Ugas do that. And I think Sugar Ray Leonard would have difficulty with Pacquiao a lot. A lot of problems. But I think Sugar Ray Leonard eventually in the end might prevail against Pacquiao because, again, Sugar Ray Leonard was a guy who did make adjustments. It'd take a little while for him to make adjustments, but he would like to have a good look at you. So Sugar Ray Leonard would try to stay on the outside. Now, Pacquiao started crowding him and started, putting the heat on him like how Aaron Pryor would probably have done in sparring. I think Sugar Ray Leonard would have to, but I think Sugar Ray Leonard, I don't think he would drop Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao too tough, but I think he'd stun him once or twice. But again, Pacquiao could easily win that fight. If Leonard let Pacquiao be Pacquiao, it's over. Leonard had to shut him down early, and if you don't shut him down early, or you do figure out how to shut him down early, Pacquiao he'll run ruckus on you. Keith Thurman. You don't get him early. Dennis Ugas set the tone early. He let Pacquiao know, you ain't just running in here like that. You're going to meet my jab. You're going to meet my right hand. And throughout the fight, that's how he controlled Pacquiao. And still, Pacquiao was so intense that he was banging up Ugas' face. He was banging up his body. Pacquiao was ferocious in that fight. I give Pacquiao all the credit in the world. Even though he lost that fight, he was fighting like a possessed man. But it's just Ugas got his number. He figured out how the pivots work. He figured out how to protect himself from certain shots. So the money shots wasn't really landing on Ugas like that. Ugas was landing more of his money shots on Pacquiao. But Pacquiao, phenomenal fighter. Don't get it twisted. So, Yeah, Manny Pacquiao, man, one of the greatest fighters to ever grace he rolled back the clock. You talking about like Henry Armstrong times. You're talking about like Ted Kid Lewis times. You're talking about like Jimmy McLarnin times. Guys that coming up from flyweight, going all the way up to welterweight, winning welterweight titles, winning junior welterweight titles, winning lightweight titles, that kind of thing. He's come from that kind of cloth. You know what I mean? The Henry Armstrong cloth. I mean, this dude came all the way up from flyweight, all the way up to welterweight. I was campaigning at welterweight and everything. Man, Pacquiao the goods, man. He the goods. One of the all-time greats. So let's talk a little bit about Manny Pacquiao. I know we're going to 3 hours, 24 minutes, and 58 seconds. We're going to keep it going. I know a lot of you guys are sitting, tuning in, just listening to me talk about these guys because I have a lot of respect for them. Every boxer, you should have respect for boxers because these are the guys who actually entertain you. It's not the promoters. It's not the managers. They just facilitate that. Even though they sometimes get quite a lot of money for all the hard work that they put in to get the fight event put up, it's really up to two fighters, and it's a brutal sport. So let me tell you about Manny Pacquiao and why I'm very impressed with his career, no matter what asterisk you may put on it. As everybody said, and it's definitely true, Manny Pacquiao's career was one in which, Manny Pacquiao was a guy who, in spite of everything that you might count him out or whatever, in spite of everything, he just keep on coming back. Pacquiao a dude that just keep on coming back. He was like the Undertaker. He just come back from the dead. When everybody thought his career was over, he just keep on coming back. This guy was inspirational. Very inspirational. To this day, he's an inspirational dude. And his mentality, his demeanor, his attitude, his everything, even his fighting, is very inspirational. He fights in waves, And so, when we talk about Manny Pacquiao, he's a very special fighter. Floyd Mayweather was a very special fighter as well. They both very special fighters. We were blessed to have these guys. Now, Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao came on the scene and was known globally as Leha Ladwaba on HBO, Boxing After Dark, right? Leo Ladwaba was a competent, skilled South African boxer, IBF champion, been champion for about 2 defenses, I think it was. There ain't nobody in hell that thought that Manny Pacquiao had a chance against this dude. This dude was classy, good boxer, good power, he worked the inside, all-around game. We're talking a complete fighter. And what I saw was a complete and utter destruction of a competent boxer, a capable, competent boxer. I did not think this dude was going to get destroyed. He destroyed him. Listen, how do I say this again? Pacquiao destroyed this dude. Okay, so we didn't know what his name was. We didn't know it was Pacquiao. I didn't know how to pronounce his name, right? I was very impressed. Very impressed. I was like, who is this dude? From the Philippines, skinny little guy. Man, that left hand. And he worked that left hand. And Pacquiao, to me, boxed better. In his earlier days, he got very reckless. He didn't just leap in. Pacquiao wasn't a guy that just leaped in and bunny hop and all that stutter step stuff that he did later on in his career. He was fundamentally sound. Used mostly the left hand, like most South. I'm a southpaw, so I'm very impressed with Manny Pacquiao because of that. And man, his timing, his placement, oh my God. How he throw that left hand was just beautiful. And they say, they used to call him Filipino slugger and all that, but he wasn't really slugging, he was boxing. And I was very impressed with that. So I went back and I looked at some of his fights in the Philippines and in Taiwan and those places. And this is when I saw that this boy was bad. I'm going to tell you why he was bad. He fought one of the baddest dudes on the block, who's named Chachai Sasakul. Chachai Sasakul beat the Russian. The first time he faced the Russian, and this Russian used to knock people out left, right, and center. Russian flyweight. He was Russian flyweight champion for a long while. Chachai Sasakul, in the first attempt, he didn't win. But, he was close. It was a good fight. Chachai Sasakul, we talking about a classy boxer. The dude, he could box. He could box on the inside. He could box on the outside. Classy. You know what I'm saying? Beautiful movement and everything. Pacquiao destroyed that dude. Destroyed him. He destroyed Chacha. I was like, oh my gosh, what the hell is this dude? So when Pacquiao says he could beat boxers, and Floyd Mayweather was no different to every other boxer that he had faced, I knew where he was coming from. Okay? I knew where he was coming from. Alright? Chacha Sesku, classy boxer, man. This dude destroyed him. I mean, he destroyed Chacha Sesku. Mainly because Pacquiao, it's the tempo at which he fights. You can be a classy boxer and you can have defense that works, but at a certain tempo. Pacquiao will go from 0 to 100 like that. So he will be boxing you at a certain speed, and he can just change the tempo just like that and light you up. That's one of the things about Pacquiao that Floyd realized. Because Pacquiao boxed, but his... Okay, so Pacquiao, Floyd, and Roy Jones Jr., you're going to notice something about their footwork. And this is what separates them from every other boxer, okay? Pacquiao, he comes from a low weight class. So he steps very quickly like this. They shuffle. They step really quick. Roy Jones Jr., he got a little duck step. Right? Roy Jones Jr. Floyd Mayweather, little duck step. Right? Quick, little steps. That is what makes the big difference with these guys. That's what separates these guys from a Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Robinson, all them other guys. Them other guys can't mess with them because Roy Jones Jr., he had quick feet. And he's tricky. When you think he's standing in front of you, he's constantly shuffling and changing the angle. Pacquiao the same thing, Floyd the same thing. But Pacquiao was a little sneaky with it. So Pacquiao would do like this. Pacquiao's here, he's shuffling with you, and then he's probing with you. He's probing with you. He a prober. So he's on the outside. Vasily Lomachenko don't got the footwork like Pacquiao. He don't got it. Pacquiao got quick feet, I'm telling you. Real quick feet. Alright? So when you guys go back and watch Mayweather versus Pacquiao, watch how their 2 feet moving. And you'll notice that they both shuffling. They're both shuffling very quickly with their feet. Getting in position with their feet. And they're very relaxed with it, but they moving around. And sometimes they stand in front of each other. And they ain't doing nothing. They're just standing in front of each other. And you got to see. Pacquiao and Mayweather got a lot in common. They got a lot in common with each other. Okay? Because both of them came from the lower weight classes. They're really smaller guys that fighting at a higher weight class. So they way quicker than the bigger guys. Alright, so I said quicker, not faster. Faster is a totally different thing. Faster, Pacquiao faster than Floyd. Pacquiao throw a combination like this. He go, right? That's Pacquiao. Mayweather wouldn't do that. He would go, yeah. Right? That's what Mayweather do. He give you a combination, but he's placing his shots different places. He's targeting different places. Pacquiao just let his hands fly. So because of that, you'll find that they quick though. What I mean by quick is the moment from rest to throwing a punch or extending a punch is really fast. Really fast. They got quick hands. So that's the thing with Floyd. Floyd's reaction time is ridiculous. But even so, you got to understand that they both are just special fighters, right? I always say Floyd and Pacquiao ain't no easy work for nobody throughout history, from their time backwards. Maybe forward in time, they might be easy work for some guys. I can think of one or two who would probably dust them both right now. Jerome Ennis for sure. Terrence Crawford probably would dust both of them. But be that as it may, I'm just saying, their time and backwards, I don't think anybody could mess with them. And we had some incredible fighters going through many weight classes and fought, and it was strong and all of that. But it's the movement. You got to understand, boxing is all about movement. And the movement of Roy Jones Jr., Manny Pacquiao, and Floyd Mayweather is just one of those weird serpentine kind of movements. All right, it's not easy to just pick up the rhythm of these guys. And the thing with Floyd is he changed it up. He changed up his rhythm. 1 minute he's bouncing at you. 1 minute he's standing in front of you. 1 minute he's shuffling. 1 minute he's sliding in, sliding out, sliding in, sliding out. 1 minute he's up on you, pushing you back. One minute he's walking you down, walking you like Marvin Hagler, hands up. So he changes his stuff up. He changes up how he addresses you and his rhythm. He used different rhythms. So Floyd's a very complicated fighter because of that, right? Trust me, man. Timing and rhythm is everything in boxing. It's all about the timing and rhythm. If you can't get a guy's rhythm, you can't fight him. Okay, you have to be able to get the guy's rhythm. Once you're in sync with him, once you're in sync with a fighter, you're in sync with him. Now you can be able to do something. So that's what a lot of people don't understand. They think it's all about power and strength and all of that. No, bro. It's all about movement. It's all about angles. It's all about timing. And once you understand that, you can master the sport, and you can really do some stuff. Guys bigger and stronger than you. And you've seen it time and time again with Floyd and Pernell Whitaker and Manny Pacquiao. Guys are bigger than him. And Henry Armstrong. Guys are bigger than him. Henry Armstrong, he knew where the center of gravity of guys were. So he would be able to get under a guy and work him from there. Henry Armstrong was beautiful with his footwork, placing himself. He's good at in-close fighting. Benny Briscoe was another guy who was good at in-close fighting. Right? So there's some people, they good at fighting on the outside, and some people good at fighting on the inside, and some people are good at both. They're not the best at both, but they're good at both. And that helps because when you can move from one place to say right up under a guy, and then for the next minute you somewhere over the side of the guy, you're boxing him on the outside. It changes up all kinds of things because you're so versatile. And of course, the old school boxers were versatile to some degree as well. So you can catch them off guard, if you close the distance on them or something. But you gotta understand that in boxing everything evolves. You know what I'm saying? So Manny Pacquiao, Cha-Cha Sasaku, choo, dude, blew through the man, stopped him. Okay, all right, okay. So let's talk about Manny Pacquiao in the top ranked days. We're gonna go with the Manny Pacquiao in the top ranked days. But Manny Pacquiao before top rank, he was a bad boy. He was a bad boy. You didn't hear about him, but he was making noise in Asia. He was making noise over there. So the man who discovered him was Lukowitz. Now Lukowitz will tell you that Floyd Mayweather is the best fighter he's ever seen. But even so, he has recruited some of the greatest fighters there: Sergio Martinez, Manny Pacquiao, etc., etc., etc. Right? And Lukowitz recruited Manny Pacquiao. Okay, and Manny Pacquiao first fought on HBO, but I think he fought on Showtime. I can't remember what fight it was. But the fight that really broke out Manny Pacquiao to the world, first time I saw him on U.S. On foreign TV was with the Leduaba fight, but the fight that broke him out to the world was the Barrera fight. When he fought Marco Antonio Barrera, and he beat him. And Marco Antonio Barrera was the man at featherweight. Super bantamweight, my bad. Super bantamweight. He was a super bantamweight champion. He was a lineal champion. He was the guy that beat Eric Morales. He beat Kevin Kelly. He beat Nassim Hamed, Prince Nassim Hamed. He beat him up, right? So he was legendary. He beat Eric Morales. You know what I'm saying? Bad dude. Pacquiao beat the brakes off that dude. Pacquiao beat the brakes off of Marco Antonio Barrera. We never seen nothing like that. Never seen nothing like that. Okay. All right. So that's, I think, the unquestioned brilliance of Manny Pacquiao's career. You cannot question his win over Marco Antonio Barrera. You cannot question it. Tris M says, ain't Mayweather Jr. better? Hold on a second. Ain't Mayweather Jr. better and greater than Pacquiao? Is an all-time great in his own right. All right, so Chris M, let me say this, all right? Right now, I'm going through it in some detail here. I want you guys to understand what we're dealing with. Now, I went into quite a lot of detail about Mayweather. Mayweather, I said it already. Mayweather was looking for the biggest fights when he became his own boss. One of the biggest fights he got was Manny Pacquiao. When he got Manny Pacquiao, it's because Manny Pacquiao wanted to face him. He was not going to face Manny Pacquiao when Manny Pacquiao didn't want to face him. Manny Pacquiao wasn't hot about facing Floyd. But then he got desperate about facing Floyd after he lost to Timothy Bradley. So after he lost to Timothy Bradley, he wasn't the number one pound for pound fighter no more. So now he needed Floyd. He wanted Floyd. So that's when that's when it all really began. Where Pacquiao, I believe, really wanted to face Floyd Mayweather. He didn't really, like I said, if Floyd really wanted to face Oscar De La Hoya. He really wanted to face Oscar, right? Pacquiao didn't really want to face Floyd. He's the number one pound for pound fighter. What do you need Floyd for? He making good money. You don't need Floyd, right? But when he lost to Timothy Bradley, all of a sudden Floyd Mayweather fight looked really great now, because now, you know, his revenue, his stock's going down, and on top of that, he's not the number one pound for pound fighter again. He's not a featured event. Then he got knocked out by Marquez. Now he really, you know, he's calling for Floyd and everything, and then he got knocked out completely off the welterweight radar with the Marquez loss. This dude went to China for Brandon Rios. Brandon Rios was supposed to finish him off. Beat up Brandon Rios. Beat him up real bad, like how he beat up Margarito. Turned around, faced Timothy Bradley. And Bradley rocked him early in the fight, and Pacquiao stayed in there, and he beat Timothy Bradley's ass coming down the stretch. Okay, and then Manny Pacquiao, man, he put the gas in the gas tank after he beat Timothy Bradley. I said, you got my respect, Manny Pacquiao, even though I thought Timothy Bradley won that fight, but nah, I don't think so. And then after that, man, my boy went up. Chris Algieri said he gonna stop Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao said, come bring it, brother. And he dropped Chris Algieri 6 times. 7 if you think about it. 7 times. Well, illegal, but I'm just saying. So, you know, this is what, he plummeted up. He took Timothy Bradley's spot, because Timothy Bradley was pound for pound number 2. He took Timothy Bradley's spot back. He was like, give me that pound for pound number 2. If Andre Ward didn't come into the equation, he would have been pound for pound number 2 behind Floyd, right? And then he took on Chris Algieri, and he smashed Chris Algieri. He smashed him all around the ring. Chris Algieri managed to make it to the end of the fight, which was good. And he's still fighting all the way down. Chris Algieri game all the way to the end. And that's how he ended up getting back that Floyd fight. Floyd was interested in him, because Floyd wasn't interested in him before that. Floyd was like, that's you, man. You messed up the money. And so people were still dying to see this fight. And so it ended up that Manny Pacquiao faced Floyd Mayweather, right? So that's how Pacquiao faced Floyd Mayweather. But he almost effed up the money, man. Talking about Floyd so much he didn't stay focused on Marquez. And Marquez was chomping at the bit to beat him. You know, Marquez wanted it more, obviously. So that's how Marquez ended up knocking him out with the knockout of the century. I mean, Pacquiao got a whole set of... So there's a lot of stuff with Manny Pacquiao. His career is very colorful. He has these ups and these downs, these ups and these downs. But man, his ups are ups and his downs are downs. So yeah, he smashed Marco Antonio Barrera. I mean, he smashed him, right? Then he goes and faces Juan Manuel Marquez. And it looks like he's going to smash Marquez as well. Knocking him down 3, knocked him out the 3rd time he hit him while Marquez was down. Marquez looked at Joe Cortez like, man, you ain't going to do something about that. So Joe Cortez didn't stop the fight there, because Joe Cortez realized that Marquez was still collective. He was still sharp. So he let him fight on. And that's why we have this great 4-part trilogy, you know what I'm saying, that happened. Which is great for Manny Pacquiao's career, because Manny Pacquiao had many... trilogy. The thing with... Okay, so If you want to talk about a swashbuckling, crazy ass adventure, Manny Pacquiao's life is that. His boxing career is that. That's what Manny Pacquiao's boxing career is. It's like die, die, and he just keep on coming back. That's Pacquiao's career for you. It's very inspirational in that respect. No matter what you do to Manny Pacquiao, no matter if you knock him out cold, he's coming back, and he's coming back for the top spot. And that's what we love about Manny Pacquiao. That's what makes him great. Besides his many achievements and accomplishments that he had. So, for example, with Manny Pacquiao versus Marco Antonio, smashed him, and then he faced Juan Marquez, who became his nemesis. And what you want with great boxing careers is you need a nemesis. You need somebody to make the career. If you're too dominant, if like Floyd was just extremely dominant, there's nobody that could touch him. You know what I'm saying? So people relate to a guy who has a nemesis that's is arch rivals, like Batman has Joker, right? The Superman has Lex Luthor or Brainiac. You know what I mean? You got Aquaman that has Orm and Black Manta. You know what I'm saying? Wonder Woman, she got she had Ares and she got Cheetah. You know what I'm saying? You want to have an arch nemesis. That helps to elevate your game. It makes the fights more memorable because you got to match somebody that you get the yin and you get the yang. Pacquiao had that in his career. You understand what I'm saying? Pacquiao had that, and he had it multiple times. He had his yang was, of course, Marquez was the thorn in his side. Okay, Marquez was a dude. Every time they fought, it was a close fight. Right? Every time. Even the last fight, the fourth fight, even though it was decisively won by Marquez, it was a close fight. Right? Marquez put down Pacquiao first, and Pacquiao put down Marquez. Pacquiao was going in to kill to try and finish Marquez, and Marquez knocked out Pacquiao. Right? That's how it went. So when you look at it, it's a to and fro, Marquez and Pacquiao. They put up great performances. They made a ton of money with each other because they meshed with each other so well. Right? Now, Pacquiao had some other fights with some other people like Timothy Bradley. He had a trilogy, but Bradley never quite could overcome Pacquiao. So the guy who made Pacquiao what Pacquiao is today, and Pacquiao got to thank him for it, and they should be good friends, is Juan Manuel Marquez. Marquez made Pacquiao. There was nobody to really make Floyd. There was no rival. There was no one that really could step up to the plate and really, really put something on, and make it like a 2 and 4. He had no equal. So that's where he didn't have that, but Pacquiao had that. All right. So Marquez made Pacquiao. Okay, now let's get to the other guys. So after Pacquiao faced Marquez, they ended up in a draw. Now one of the judges, if he had scored that first round, I believe it should have been a 10-6 round or something like that he was saying, then Pacquiao would have won by a smidgen, right? But it ended up, it was a 10-7 round. But I think there's a rule that only so many knockdowns you can deduct. Something like that. And the referee should probably stop the fight. Now, if they had the 3 knockdown rule, Pacquiao would have won. But we are thankful that Pacquiao did not win that fight like that. We're thankful that it was a draw. Because really and truly, them two guys would match each other so very well that it's almost like you could say that the second fight that Marquez had with Pacquiao was a draw. The third fight that Marquez had with Pacquiao was a draw. So almost all the fights you could have said they were draws. You know what I'm saying? Only the final fight wasn't a draw because Marquez knocked Pacquiao out. But if that fight went on, it probably would have ended up being a draw. That's how closely matched those two guys were. And it really made for great fights. When you talk about great fights, Marquez Pacquiao quadrilogy is one of the greatest quadrilogies and one of the greatest series of fights that you will find. All right, and you find that, like, for example, Emil Griffith was made by Kid Barrett. Kid Barrett and Emil Griffith, they had their trilogy of fights in which Kid Barrett was killed. Emil Griffith killed Kid Barrett. You know what I'm saying? But it was an epic trilogy. You know what I'm saying? Barrett wins some. You think of Sugar Ray Robinson and Jake LaMotta. What made it great was their quintet quintet quintetology or whatever they call it. The five part series. Morning, Machu. All right. So I gotta go, guys. I really want to continue this onwards. Like I said, this is gonna be a two-part something that we'll talk about in detail. Where I'm not gonna try and throw shade on anybody or anything like that, like a fan would, but to just talk about the details of these fights and how good these both guys were, and you know where you have to stand in awe as a fan. I'm gonna catch you guys later. I am what you need. I'm gonna catch you guys later. I gotta go do some business now.